Rissa redeemed it first this time. Hello. You got it? You watching more movies tonight? My relatives gathered at the Sonozaki house after the festival to have a little party. I mingled with my uncles and had fun. I was trying to get rid of my eerie memories of the ritual storehouse. Okay, so it was... She did go to the party. Leon was acting as the successor, so I tried to stay away from her. I'm sure she would feel weird if I talked to her in a formal way. You are first, Rissa. How do you feel? How do you feel that you've made it this far? You've bested everybody. I kept looking back at notifications again here. Hello, Gubby. Hello, Dianea. Hope you guys are doing well. Well, everyone's day was good today. In consideration of the hag's old age, we ended the party at 11 p.m. We all helped to clean up with the woman washing the dishes in the kitchen. Well, sibling abuse happening here. And the men folding the tables and putting them away in the storeroom. Only took about 30 minutes, then everyone left, one after another. By then, Mion was no longer acting as the Sonozaki successor and was back to being her normal self. Not abuse if it's equally sided. It's beef. I guess. But Ray. I don't know what you were trying to say, Ray. Like, were you trying to say, do it, I dare you? And it just said Ray? By then, Mion was no longer acting as a Sonozaki successor and was back to being her normal self. Oh, okay. Maybe I over-exaggerated a little. I was lying on the tatami floor. Dude, I spilled some food on myself from earlier today and I just realized it. Ugh. Hi, Ruben. I'm gonna try to get 1.4K to play a very precious video. It's a very precious video. Hope your day was well, Ruben. Maybe I overexerted a little. I was lying on the tatami floor. Kasai asked me if I could get in the car. So I told him I'd rather not move anymore.
おねえ、今日泊まってってもいい？ここで寝ちゃいたい。バッチャに見つかると怒られるよ。で、それよりシオン、明日は学校じゃないの？明日は開校記念日だからいいの。あんたの学校、開校記念日って年に何回あるわけ？
Exactly.
まあ、いっか。じゃあ、笠井さん。
Miss the reintroduction to your goat. Yes, you did. You did miss it, Ruben.
シオンは今夜はうちで預かります。
わかりました。
Okay, so, is hair where she goes missing?
では、よろしくお願いいたします。
Be honest, who's paying 3.1 million points? Nobody! That's why it's that expensive. There's, like, nobody is going to buy that. That's why I have it there. It's just there for... Ortheo's been trying for forever. But I don't think he's actually been in stream and sat to collect channel points for the longest time. So I don't think he's ever gonna get there. He doesn't ever spend his points, no.
ほら、シオン、起きて。ここで寝てるとバッチャに怒られるって。ほら、肩を貸すから奥に行こう。私の布団貸してあげるから。ありりー、おねー。
My alter ego told me that I'm in a demon's stomach. I wouldn't have woken up if I hadn't heard that voice, but when I stop, he always walks one extra step. I might not have woken up at all. Notebook page 165. I watched back on it was a great time. Only Keiichi can disappear for a chapter half, then make an iconic return. Yeah, only Keiichi could do that. Only Keiichi could do that. Like, it was genuinely like, yeah. miss him. It's just because you get so familiar, you know? Like, ugh. I hate him, but, you know, you also have to love him. Someone starts saving up. Orthio's been saving up for a while, so he's been trying, but I don't know if he'll ever get that. I don't remember much after that. I was probably brought to Mion's room and immediately crawled into the futon. After a while, Mion got her futon ready next to me, turned off the lights, and went to sleep. At least that's what I thought. I got up and turned the lights on. Mion's futon was empty. The futon felt cold. Mion must have left it a while ago. Did she go to the bathroom? No, the closest bathroom was right down the hallway. The light in the bathroom was off. Where did she go? The ticking of the clock was loud and annoying in this silence. The hands pointed to a little before 3 a.m. I was left alone all of a sudden, in this late night. I felt the eeriness of the ritual storehouse coming back to me, and after almost managing to forget it in the ruckus earlier, I tried to sense my surroundings. In this house, there shouldn't be an eerie atmosphere, strange noises, or footsteps. I stepped out of the freezing cold hallway to look for Mion. So we just finished the festival, yes, and they were just partying, like they had the Sonozaki party afterwards, and now, yeah, that's where we're at, here. That room belonged to the hag. The hag went to sleep early and woke up early. She was very strict about her bedtime, so it was strange to see her light on in the middle of the night. I could hear voices too. Those voices belonged to the hag and Mion. I creeped up to the room and listened to their conversation. Since it was the middle of the night, I could hear their words very clearly. So was just trying to break into my room. She's a demon. Wait, like Aoni. How it's like, you know, when you close the door, it starts banging on the door? Yeah. Yeah, that's what I remember as well, Ruben. There are some differences from chapter 2. So, I don't think this is exactly the same. We also, like, there's a couple scenes with Shion and Keiichi that we never saw in this one, in this chapter that we've seen so far. And I don't think they were omitted for no random reason. So I think this is different. Like, this is a different timeline compared to chapter 2. It's not the exact same thing.
まあね、お社様のお怒りに触れたんだから、仕方ないしね。
Mion's voice sounded cold as the one I'd heard down in the torture room. I held my breath.
警察は調べとっちゅうとろんが、すっとろん間違いなかんね。
多分ね、高野さんだろうね。
My heart almost stopped. Oyashiro-sama got angry. The police are investigating. It's probably Takano-san. And what day was it today? Those words told me that something was happening. My teeth started to chatter. I desperately tried to stop them. I felt like my body was swelling up suddenly. I could no longer hear as well. Calm down. Breathe. Listen more carefully. According to Mion and the hag's conversation, another incident definitely took place. The victims were Takano-san and Tomitake-san. From what I could tell, both Mion and the hag thought it made sense that whatever it was happened to them. No. I needed to think more calmly. They did say they deserved it for making Oyashiro-sama angry. They said Takano-san and Tomitake-san made Oyashiro-sama angry? How did they make Oyashiro-sama angry? They knew. My body started to shake. They knew we snuck into the ritual storehouse. Then would that mean Keiichi and I were also subject to Oyashiro-sama's curse? Trying to remember. Yeah, because it was whatever that Shion was, it was faking. So it was probably Mion faking herself as Shion when Keiichi did the calls, meaning at this point Shion could have already been kidnapped, because Oishi said that Shion had been missing for multiple days. I think they were omitted to not redo those original scenes again. In this chapter, we only have the toy shop incident with the doll. That's definitely true, but I feel like, how do you say? I feel like there are a couple important things, like with Keiichi, that they also omitted. Like, I know, like, maybe it wasn't important, but I feel like it would have been, like, the things that they have included would have been important to hear Shion's thoughts, but I don't know. Yeah, they're simulators, but it's not one-to-one, yes. The phone was by the front door. The front door was opposite the hag's room, further down the hall. The ringing echoed throughout the long hallway. It sounded so eerie, almost like it was coming from hell. That was when I felt someone behind me. Of course, there's nobody there when I turned around, but there was someone there a moment ago. I didn't know if it was Satoshi-kun. I didn't sense any emotions, so I couldn't tell. I also didn't know how long it had been there. It was as if somebody was watching me, listening on their conversation. That was the feeling I got. Whenever I see a random phone call, I think of jump scares because of what I've seen. The FNAF phone ringing. It couldn't be Satoshi-kun. Satoshi-kun would never be that intimidating or scary. My mind turned all red like it was suffused with blood.
みーちゃんにはない？ひたひたと。ずっと足音がついてきて、夜は枕元にまで立た
Yeah,
れ
did you
て
now just realize it could have
見
been
下ろされる経
Oyashiro-sama,
験。
Shion? I remembered what Rena Ryugu had said on that rainy day.
そうならばみーちゃんは大丈夫。お社様には怒られない。
If Oyashiro-sama wasn't angry, nobody would follow me. So what did this mean? Ever since we snuck into the shrine storage, something has been following me? What is it? Calm down. Calm down. That's right, Rena wasn't talking about me. She was talking about Satoshi-kun. That's what happened to Satoshi-kun.
サトシ君が体験していることは、すべてお社様のたたりの前触れなの。
That's right. That's why he encountered the curse of Oyashiro-sama.
誰かが遠くからじっと伺っている。誰かがずっとつけてくる。
I still don't know why in Shion's, mind, like, going back to Keiichi's introduction, or the way she was seeing it, or perceiving it, or the way it actually did happen, why Keiichi was able to beat up those guys, because in the other timeline, he, did not, do that whatsoever. Unless there are ways, unless for some reason, people experience the same events differently. That's, maybe one thing. For some reason, people are experiencing the same events differently. It leads to the same outcome, but the way it happens is different. I don't know how that could make sense, but... Because in the original release of these games, no one knew what Keiichi looked like until this game. 5 games into a series. That is true, yeah. Because, they didn't have the full art things from before. In the initial things. Creepy feeling crawled up and spread across my
誰
back.
かがいつも自分のすぐ後ろから見ている。やがて足音は常に自分とずれて一つ余計に聞こえるようになるの。
I swallowed loudly. It's almost as though Rena Ryugu was predicting what would happen to me. Had Rena been talking about Satoshi-kun back then? Or had she actually been talking about me?
やがて後ろのそれは自分の家の中にまでついてくるようになる。そしてお布団に入って明かりを消してもずっと枕元から見下ろしてるの。ただただ黙ってじーっと。
I knew by now there was no mistake. No matter how I looked at it, she had been talking about me. Yes, me. It had been about me. The curse of Oyashiro-sama. What is the curse of Oyashiro-sama? That was when I actually felt something for real. Someone grabbed my collar. No voice came out. I wanted to scream, but all I could do was open and close my mouth as if something was stuck in my throat. It was Mion. She looked even colder than how she'd look in the underground torture room. It only made sense that she'd come out of the hallway to answer the phone. I tried to come up with an excuse, however the way Mion looked at me was so cold. Even if I had really run into her by accident, I could tell the look in her eyes that she wouldn't believe me. I felt cold sweat all over my body, and I couldn't even move my finger.
ごめん。
I apologized. I could have said something to get myself out of the situation, but the apology came out first. But Mion didn't appear to hear me. She walked to the front door, still holding my collar. The phone was still ringing. A normal person doesn't usually let a phone ring so long that this time of night. The phone call itself didn't seem real to me. Mion picked up the phone.
ミオンです。そうですか。わかりました。 そちらの対応はよろしくお願いします。それから、一切の口封じをよろしくお願いします。ええ、では。
Mion put down the phone after a short conversation. What did she mean, make sure nobody talks about this? Who called any... Wait? Mion put her forehead to mine and spoke.
聞いてた？
Which conversation was she asking me about? Well, she had to be talking about the one with the hag. If I said yes, what happened to me?
何のことかわかんない。
Mion pulled my collar, pressing her nose on mine, and continued to
聞
speak.
こえた通りです。富武さんと高野さんが、お社様のたたりに遭われました。本当にお気の毒なことです。
It was like I was talking to myself in a mirror. What was I saying in the mirror was ever so cold.
おねお社様のたたりって何です？富武さんは自らの手で喉をかきむしってお亡くなりになりました。高野さんは遠くの山奥でドラム缶に詰められて焼き殺されたそうで、実にお気の毒です。
Tomitake-san clawed at his own throat until he died? What? Takano-san was burnt to death in an oil drum? What? What? I felt something furry crawl up my spine. I also felt like my stomach was turning upside down. I didn't feel any strength in my legs. Mion let go of my collar, I'd probably collapse on the spot.
なんでそんな死に方したのかな？わかりませんか、シオン。
I'm asking you because I don't know.
わかんないよ。理由なんて一つしかないじゃないですか。
Please don't talk as if I already know the answer.
理由かな？
My heart was pounding. I felt like my next breath would be so bloody and hot that I'd choke
そ
on
んな
it.
こともわかんないのですか？
It's because they made Oyashiro-sama angry. The first year it was the manager of the dam construction site. The second year was the traders to the village. Third year was the pacifist. The fourth year was the relatives of the traders. I'd always thought the victims were people who had something to do with the dam conflict. Since I didn't do anything against the village during the dam conflict, I assumed it was safe. These people ever heard of self-defense? Well, it doesn't matter, because she probably gets overpowered, like, either way, no matter what. And she's in enemy territory. If she did try to fight back or run away, well, first of all, it probably wouldn't matter. But, yeah. I should have known. Should have known everything would be the curse of Oyashiro-sama. I knew Oyashiro-sama's anger was the curse of Oyashiro-sama. I knew Oyashiro-sama would get angry if I snuck into the ritual storehouse. But since I wasn't held responsible in any way for the damn conflict, I never thought I would be a victim of the curse. Did I ever think there would be an incident in the 5th year? Did I ever think that that I'd be the victim of the 5th year incident? Tomitake-san snuck into the storehouse and he clawed at his own throat until he died. Takano-san was burned to death in an oil drum. It must be a lie. It couldn't be true. Even if it was forbidden, it was just a space for storing some old torture implements. How could they be killed just for sneaking in there? Especially in such gruesome ways. But I thought about it again and realized that these people were absolutely capable of doing something like that. The main Sonozaki family was capable of it. The Sonozaki family had been pulling the strings from behind the series of mysterious deaths. They could do it. The Sonozaki family even kidnapped the grandson of the Minister of Construction during the dam conflict. They could do it. The Sonozaki family made Satoshi-kun disappear completely. They could do it. What was that flash? Wait, what? Okay, something happened. I'm gonna fill up my water. Okay, I'm back. What magic would you use, Gubby? Leon leaned against me before falling cold onto the cold hallway floor. She collapsed rather violently. I usually didn't go to sleep with my stun gun, but since I was too tired and sleepy to get ready to bed, I still had it on me. Oh yeah, her stun gun. I had my stun gun on me. I finally understood. I didn't know who killed him exactly, whose idea it was, or who ordered it. I didn't even know who it was actually involved, but Mion and the hag knew everything. Satoshi-kun, now I finally know. Now I know what I need to do. I will settle the score for you, Satoshi-kun. I will avenge you, Satoshi-kun. I wouldn't be killed like you, Satoshi-kun. I walked into the hag's room. She was sitting up to take some medicine. Her back was turned to me. Mion and I are twins. If I acted like her, the hag wouldn't notice the difference. I didn't think she ever suspected me. I put my stun gun to her neck and pulled the trigger. I heard an indescribable electrical sound, and the hag's lights went out. She fell in a twisted position. I didn't know how long it would take for a person to regain their freedom of movement after getting knocked out with a stun gun, so I had to restrain them before they woke back up. I was unbelievably calm. The key to the underground torture room was in the forbidden drawer that only the head of the family can access. Mion had told me about this once. I never looked for the drawer before, but I found it exactly where I thought it would be. The key was on a keychain with several of its sisters. Each key had a little plaque on it that said what it was used for. They were all in Mion's handwriting. She was an idiot for being so conscientious, but it sure helped me out. I put the keychain in my pocket and headed to the outdoor storeroom to find a cart. I found a large flashlight there as well. There was a strap on the flashlight so I could put it on my shoulder. That way, I'd have both hands free to carry Mion and the hag. I loaded Mion and then our grandmother onto the cart and then carried them to the underground torture room. I was prepared to use the stun gun again and if they woke up while I was working, but it was more powerful than I'd imagined, and the hag showed no signs of waking. This was a stun gun Kasai specially ordered for me when I told him I wanted a powerful one. I remembered him telling me that it was an illegally modified stun gun and that I should never use it just for fun. Didn't Mion have a stun gun in Chapter 2? I feel like I remember that being the case, that Mion had a stun gun in Chapter 2. I used my flashlight to find the light switch. I found it easily and turned it on. All the lights went out in the basement. Although there was now illumination, it was very dim. I moved quickly so as to finish what I needed to do before they woke up. I decided to put Mion in a cell beyond the torture room. This is the exact same thing, like situation. I mean, I don't know what happened to the grandmother, because we didn't see anything with the grandmother, but it's the exact same thing that happened in Chapter 2. I wonder if it's... okay. I decided to put Mion in a cell beyond the torture room. The lights in the torture room were so bright that it was like daylight. There was a door there. I was fairly certain the cells were on the other side of that door. The proper key was... here. The keys made a tinkling sound. I felt cold air coming in through the gap in the door. There must be a huge opening on the other side. I opened the door and saw nothing but darkness. I felt along the wall to find a light switch. I turned the switch on and the light bulbs lit up, revealing a huge rocky cave. It didn't look like a natural cave. It looked more like an air raid shelter. There were several hollow openings with bars on them. Those were the cells. I walked up to the closest cell and checked to see if it was strong enough to confine her. I pushed and pulled on the bars. I rammed against them with all my weight and decided they were perfectly sturdy. This was secure enough to be called a cell. I opened the lock and carried Mion in. I wasn't particularly strong, just average. I never thought I was strong enough to carry a whole person, but now I didn't need to pretend to be weak. I could easily lift and drag their bodies. I put Mion in the cell. She seemed to moan a little. I didn't need to check to make sure. The effect of my stun gun was wearing off. I closed the bars and turned the key in the lock. Then I ran to the hag, who must have been starting to wake up too. Fortunately, there was no sign of her regaining consciousness. Maybe the difference in age had something to do with it. I looked for a table to restrain her on. I found a wheelchair with restraints for the hands and feet. Put the hag in it. Of course, she didn't resist, but her dead weight made it seem like she was a huge French doll. But one made of flesh. Put her hands on the armrests and restrained them at the wrists with the metal rings and hinges. Did the same with her feet. This must have been a wheelchair specifically remodeled to restrain a person. Other than the restraints, it was a regular wheelchair. I waited for the hag to wake up. I had so many things I wanted to ask her. I didn't think she'd answer honestly, but I had plenty of tools to make her talk. I was in no rush. When the hag had a concern, the relatives took care of the problem. That was how it worked in the Sonozaki family. She was the leader of the family, so all the information they gathered would make its way to her. She must know everything that happened in Hinamizawa, including the curse of Oyashiro-sama. I heard a noise from the cell. Mion must have woken up before the hag did. Speaking of the hag, she didn't seem like she was about to wake up anytime soon, but she was restrained even if she did, so I had no need to fear. I left the hag there and headed for the cell.
シオン、これは何の真似ですか?
She talked like the successor, but she also sounded frightened. She obviously understood the situation she was in right
おは
now.
よう、ミオン。まさか自分が閉じ込められることになるとは思わなかった？ 園崎家当主代行として命じます。ここを開けなさい。声色に一つ凄みが欠けますね。当主様はもっと傲慢な言い方をしなきゃね。もっともそういう言い方ができたとしても、今のあんたは滑稽なだけなんだけどさ。
There was nothing funny about it, but I wanted to intimidate Mion. My laughter echoed throughout the cave. It was artificial and meaningless laughter. I heard it over and over as it echoed. It sounded as if I wasn't the only one laughing. I couldn't stand it, so I stopped. Silence filled the air. The silence almost hurt my ears, so I started to
富
speak.
武さんと高野さんが今年の犠牲になるとはね、思わなかった。高野さんのドラム缶に詰めて焼き殺したってのもなかなかやるね。ま、あの人はそういう死に方を自分で希望してたっぽいからね。結構満足してるかもよ。
Mion didn't say anything. She just stared at me to see how I
富
proceeded.
武さんの自分で自分の喉を引き裂いたってのは何？凶器に駆り立てるような怪しいお薬でも注射したの？それともそういう死に方に見せるような拷問道具でもあるわけ？
Mion didn't reply. I was smiling boldly, but I became impatient and finally kicked the bars. It made a violent noise. Mion jumped as if she was kicked
返事が
directly.
ないと退屈です。私を怒らせるとどんな得が？私が知るわけないでしょ。
Mion finally replied. She was odious, but at the same time sounded pitiful.
ねえ、ミオン。次期当主様。ここまで来ちゃったんだから。
I just had too many things I wanted to ask her. I wanted to ask her about me, about the incident, about the curse, about Satoshi-kun. I didn't even know where to start. Before I asked her about those things, I asked her one other
私
thing.
に対して反抗的な態度をとっても何の得にもならないこと。
Mion glared at me silently. Because we were twins, I knew that was just a
もう
bluff.
ここまでやっちゃった以上、私も引っ込みがつかないんで。お姉も私に容赦とか躊躇とかそういうものをあまり期待しない方がいいかもです。
Mion must have been feeling the cold sweat on her face. Although the light was dim, I could tell she was
じゃあ
frightened.
聞くよ。ひなみ沢村連続開始事件、通称お社様のたたり。これってどういう意味があるの？やっぱりダム戦争のけじめってやつ？私は多分そうだと思ってる。
Mion sounded a little confused, but she answered. I felt satisfaction now that we were communicating. I continued with a smile.
思ってるって言い方が少し頼りないね。そのあたりの事情は詳しくないの？シオンだって分かってるでしょ。次期当主なんてバッチャの取り次ぎに過ぎないよ。
Yeah, right.
その当主様と意思を疎通させて以心伝心なのが次期当主様の役目でしょ。取り次ぎに過ぎないなんて信じると思う？いつも身近にいる私だってたまにバッチャが何を考えてるのかわからない時があるもん。何でもかんでも私が理解してるわけじゃない。じゃあお社様のたたりってのはあいつが全部独断で決めてるわけなんだ。
I wonder. The Odio hasn't woken up yet, right? So I wonder if when she wakes up, because she allegedly has the demon in her as well, right? So I wonder if that means, like, yeah, what exactly that means.
次期当主様と相談して決めてるのかと思ったよ。やばい話は全部バッチャが一人で決めてる。私なんか預かり知る余地もない。でもばあさんの独断だとしたってあいつはあんたを介してやりとりしてるわけでしょ。そのあんたが何も知らないなんてあるはず。違うよ。私なんかを介していない。私にだってよくわからないんだけど、私が陽の部分を取り継いでるとしたら陰の部分を取り継いでる誰かがいると思う。誰？その影の部分の取り継ぎって。知らない。誰かを招いて話してるとことか電話をしているとことか見たことない？
You get 100 every 5 minutes? What 100 do you get every 5 minutes?
強いて言えば毎年お社様のたたりの時期になると連絡量がどっと増える相手ね。わかんない。心当たりなんかないよ。
Mion shook her
まあ
head.
いいや。じゃあ質問を変えるね。
Points. Oh, okay.
今年のたたりの富武さんと高野さんは ダム戦争に直接関係してないのに、なぜ犠牲に選ばれたの？やっぱり、西宮殿に忍び込んだから？
As soon as Mion heard the words ritual storehouse, her expression
西
shifted.
宮殿にフルテ神社の西宮殿を犯したの？
ありゃ。知ってるとばかり。
そんなことをしたら、バカ、当然だよ。
Mion muttered bitterly while shaking her head repeatedly. Mion's reaction made me realize the true meaning of the forbidden storehouse for ritual implements. The ritual storehouse is a sacred building, so nobody can go inside. The curse will fall upon anyone who disobey. Any child would know that rule. However, just because they knew about it doesn't mean they believed in it at all. Although they were told they would be cursed, most of the kids actually enjoyed hearing the stories. They simply didn't believe it was true. However, Mion's reaction told me it actually was. If they actually did that, of course something would happen to them. So you're saying that if somebody snuck into the ritual storehouse, that person should be killed.
私がこっちに帰ってきて以降、たまにミオンとは認識が食い違いますね。そりゃ私だって、西宮殿が迂闊に入っちゃやばいとこだってのは知ってますけど、あんな死に方しても当然だってほどやばいとは思わないんだけど、私たちだって、その程度の認識じゃなかったでしたっけ？それは、シオンがよく知らないだけだよ。すみませんね。よく知らなくて。説明をいただいてもよろしいですか？そりゃシオンの言う通り、子供の世界では、やばいとかたたりがあるとか言ったって、どうせ迷信に過ぎないだろう。でも大人にバレたらかなり怒られるんだろうなって程度の認識だと思う。でもね、ひなみ沢の古老たちにとっては、そんな甘いものじゃないの。
Mion explained to me how the elderly people blindly believe in Oyashiro-sama, and how sacred the festivals are to them. It's probably something the younger generations would never understand, but they're possessed by a very strong, deeply rooted devotion towards Oyashiro-sama. Mion then went on to tell me about how sinful it was to violate the rule of the ritual storehouse. I couldn't believe things like that were still going on, even in the modern day. I couldn't even reply appropriately, but even if it was unbelievable, I couldn't ignore what I was hearing from my twin sister.
なるほどね。でもさ、ミオン。たたりで一人が死んだら、それを相殺する意味で一人を生贄にするのがルールじゃなかったっけ？生贄の死体は出ない。なのに今回は、二人とも死体が出ちゃってるんだけど。そのあたりはどう見る？
So, Takano only disappeared in chapter 1. But every other time since then, she's been found burned. I don't know what that means, but it feels important. Mion doesn't know that besides Takano-san and Tomitake-san, Keiichi and I also snuck into the ritual storehouse, so I tried to lead her a little.
確かに、おかしいね。高野さんの焼死体は見つかっちゃいけなかったってことなのかな？本当は高野さんは失踪ってことになるのがパーフェクトだったのかな？あるいは、
Am I lonely? What do you mean, am I lonely? Oh, no, there are others here. But hello, Roach, how are you?
何？根拠なんかいらないから言ってみてよ。怒らないから。
Mion hesitated. He is. Yeah, I guess I'm actually very alone. I'm crying. Mion hesitated a little at first and then started to speak.
西宮殿に忍び込んだのは、実は4人とか。それで？で、もう2人は、生贄ってことで、鬼隠しになってるんじゃないかな。
Oh, that's what we're just cutting to black here? So why do they know? That's so strange. Why do they know wait, what? Actually, 4 people snuck into the storage? How do you know that? But how'd you not know that they snuck into the storage in the first place? What? Mion's words were stuck in my head. If those 2 dead bodies were the result of the curse, then there should be 2 sacrifices to calm Oyashiro-sama's anger. Yes, Roach? The 4 of us snuck into the shrine storage together. What are you confused about? I could try to explain as best I could. It was a simple equation. That mean that Keiichi and I were in danger. I got drunk, fell asleep, and decided to stay overnight. Was that because of the alcohol? Or did somebody put a drug in my drink? My life decisions? I'm not sure if I can help with that, but I can try. It's not like me to get drunk and spend a night at the hag's house. I wanted to forget about what happened to that eerie storehouse, so I drank too much. But it was really strange for me to get that drunk. Maybe it's a good thing I woke up in the middle of the night. Yeah, I don't think you can. Fair. We all question that sometimes. That's true. We all do that from time to time. I could have been the one to wake up in a cell. Sometimes it's hard to recognize danger when you avoid it accidentally. A part of me just wanted to laugh at the idea, but another part felt frightened that I was so close in being Mion's position. My thinking was correct. I wonder how Keiichi Maebara was doing right now. I didn't see him in any of the cells, but that didn't guarantee his safety. Akano-san and Tomitake-san had been executed. There's a possibility that Keiichi could already be dead. But just like what happened to Satoshi-kun, it might only happen after a few days. When the sun rose... Why are you in fall spring right now? What, like, it's supposed to be spring, but it's not? Because if that's the case, then I feel you as well. When the sun rose, I was going to pretend to be Mion and head to her school. I was going to check if Keiichi Maebara was safe. If he had already disappeared, the enemy would come after me next. I'd have to be a decoy for myself. But he was still safe. I need to keep my eyes on him. I was sure the enemy would come after that scatterbrain. If I became Mion, Shion would disappear. The enemy would think Shion had already been demoned away. They'd concentrate on Keiichi. If nothing happened to Keiichi, that would also be fine. It'd prove that nothing would happen to me either. Yeah, I feel you. Like, I mean, I don't know Fahrenheit, but like, yeah, it was pretty cold over here as well. Like, it was, like, yeah, it was getting warmer, and then suddenly, it, like, last week, it got really cold and snowed here. And it actually snowed twice in the past, like, it got, so, the entire winter, basically, didn't get any snow. Beginning of March, there was snow. Then there was, like, it got warmer, then it suddenly got snow again. And then, it's getting warmer. It's supposed to be 70s, like, 20. Okay. Yeah, so next week it's supposed to be cold again. I didn't even know next week it's supposed to be cold again. What is happening? I love climate change and changing weather patterns. That's really cool. The hag was still sleeping in the wheelchair. I was going to interrogate her, but actually I wasn't expecting to learn that much. Floridians chilling in the 90s. Fair. Why is that lies? Reaching 90s to 100s over here. Yeah, I guess that's like just Arizona temperature type thing. I was not. She lied. Wait, what? What did she lie about? You're in Florida next week. That's good. What are you going to do in Florida? I think I've just gotten used to kind of colder weather though, so it's like anytime, like I can go to like warmer places for a short amount of time, but it's like I've kind of been on two extremes. I've been here in Canada, and I also like grew up in the desert, so it's like, you know, I know the two extremes. I did not try to break in. I don't know. There's no way to prove it. Probably, the woman was also known as Empress Sonozaki. Probably wouldn't say a thing if even her fingers were cut off. Mion, her successor, was the complete opposite. She spoke readily, but didn't know too much about anything. Mion had said she was only a messenger. I'm going to Universal. Fun! Hope you enjoy that. I've only been to Disney. I've never been to Universal. Mion had said that someone else was taking problems on the underside. It's possible Mion had grown to be a good liar, and she tried to deceive me with a straight face. But at the same time, I could see the hag not letting Mion get involved in the underside of the village. For a week! I hope you have fun! Anything you excited to do there? I were her, I wouldn't have used Mion for that either. I'm going for free! Wait, how come? While there were only ones and zeros in the world, she believed they were numbers with decimal points. In other words, she could never be cruel. If the hag thought the same way as I do, it was very possible the one who'd take care of the problems on the underside, X, was the one who actually governed the curse of Oyashiro-sama. Well, this is the first time we're hearing about this. Because my parents are paying. Okay, well, I don't think you're going for free then, but, yeah, I mean, that's still cool. Like, it technically is true, you are going for free, but, like, you know, if your parents are paying, then... I thought maybe it's like you got some special entrance or something. Well, they aren't, I am, though. I mean, yeah, I guess you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Hag can become concerned about something X would do with it, either directly or indirectly. Maybe the hag and X would discuss the details first. But did X really exist? If he did, his place in the village hierarchy was a lot more important than that of the successor. Unlike Mion, who was too nice, he was discreet, cruel, and cunning. Furthermore, he was extremely close to the hag. Someone who would have a lot of contacts with her just before it was for the time for the curse. Because of the way Tomitake-san died, he could be someone who regularly dealt with unusual drugs. He could be a member of a medical institution. We still have no clue who that guy that appeared in chapter 1 was. He, like, literally appeared for, like, 1 second, the chief, and then, like, he disappeared. We've never heard from him again, ever. What do you mean you talk, like, you're talking to a wall? In what way? Okay, I'm answering everything. What guy? The guy that hunted down Keiichi. When Rena and Mion held him down and was like, oh, the chief is coming, or the president is coming, or something like that. And then a guy in a suit showed up with, like, some people who chased Keiichi down. And then Keiichi was like, the director. Yeah, exactly. Wait. That's the director. Irie? And he was wearing a white suit as well. That's how it was described, and Irie is wearing a white suit. Let me pull out these cards here. What did the cat pilot say to his passengers? Please prepare for furbulence. Wow. It's time for quality, yep. Who is this guy? He is a doctor. That's really what's important. We're gonna hit an iceberg? I don't think that happens in the plane. The director of the Irie Clinic. Irie. In this isolated village, Irie was famous for opening such a beautiful clinic and for working so hard for the villagers' sake. The villagers liked his mature personality and really respected him. There's nothing scarier than a doctor who's also a murderer. And I feel like when Keiichi was injured, they were saying a doctor was coming, right? That way, that actually makes so much sense. In the first chapter, it's Irie. Wait, this makes a lot of sense. There's nothing scarier than a doctor, but I just don't understand. He had, like, droves of men who were behind. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. Why would Irie be in that position? That seems so strange. What's happening right now? Well, right now Shion's trying to figure out who this X person is that Odio is trying to figure out. Irie was the person behind the curse. All the mysterious deaths could be explained. However, there's only a slim chance of Irie being X. The main reason being that the hag wouldn't trust him. Like many of the elderly, the hag doesn't like young people. I knew she'd never trust him because of his age. Furthermore, she'd openly criticized his behavior among their relatives once. Although Irie was famous, he was an outsider after all. He wasn't born here. He tried to maintain a good relationship with the villagers as the director of the clinic, but that was just on the surface. I couldn't even imagine the hag telling him about her worries. Or about the village's underside. If a plane drives in a thunderstorm, does the plane hit the hail, or the hail hit the plane? I think the hail still hits the plane. I guess it's both. Depending on, I guess, where the plane is angled. But I think it could be both. If she was suspicious of others as I was, then she'd only gather trustworthy people to deal with that underside. The first people that came to my mind were the leaders of the three families. Why am I talking to a wall? Again, what am I doing wrong? Leaving Rika-chama out, the head of the Kimiyoshi family was a strong possibility. He was the only one who could advise Empress Sonozaki. Why did that sticker thing happen? Which sticker thing? I mean, it's fine. It's whatever. They were a similar age, and everyone knew that they were very close outside of the gay hand heart. I mean, it's fine. Sometimes people just put that randomly. They were similar age, and everybody knew that they were very close outside the family councils. No, I see this. I see it. Furthermore, as mayor, he often went to... You don't need a reason to put something if you want to just put an emoji just because. You don't need to worry about it. Or a thing, whatever. Furthermore, as the mayor, yeah, just before the Watanagashi discussed festival preparations. I could easily picture them talking privately. The one who executed the curse of Oyashiro-sama. The one who murdered Takano-san and Tomitake-san. The mastermind behind the series of mysterious deaths that have been going for the past 5 years. Was he coming after me? Did he get to Satoshi-kun? When I thought about Satoshi-kun, I felt elevated. I was fearful of possibly being this year's victim until just a moment ago. I was scared that X was after me. But when I thought about it, I realized whoever it was, this person had gotten Satoshi-kun. I looked so hard, but I couldn't find him. I'd almost forgotten about this enemy. What is that? Why is she beating her up so badly? Intimidate, date you. Is that a thing that people do? Okay. Just intimidate. I looked so hard, but I couldn't find him. I'd almost forgotten about this enemy. For better or for worse, he was going to appear before me again. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't find that enemy. Why are we just putting things of food now? I don't know how, but now he's trying to find me. That was it. I wasn't only being chased, I was chasing too. When I realized all this, I was no longer afraid of dying to the 50 year's curse. It had become a game. I'm hungry now. Oh, I have some food in front of me here, but like... I don't know if I want to be eating anymore right now. I wasn't only being threatened. I was threatening too. Now was the time to settle the score for Satoshi-kun. Now was the time to awaken passions that had grown weak over the past years. I could feel righteous indignation and courage flare up within me. The only emotion that could defeat fear is anger. When my anger completely overtook my fear, I felt as if I was reborn. Oh, nice! What snacks are you planning on getting? Or you can tell me when you get back with the snack.
Onibaba-sama, そろそろ目を覚ましてくださいません?
I kicked her wheelchair rather violently, but that didn't wake her up
ひょっ
either.
として眠ったふりをしてやり過ごそうとか考えてません?
I grabbed her by the hair and pulled her head up, but even then the hag stayed silent with a straight face. Then I noticed something. I looked for an appropriate torture device. They were all large scale, none of them being particularly handy. That's when I saw a cigarette lighter on a cushion of the tatami room. One of the relatives must have left it there. Dude, that was fast! You just got all the animals there. I lit the lighter. A huge flame appeared. I turned the lighter off and went back to the hag with it.
見えてない。これ誰の忘れ物かわかりませんけ
Was
ど
getting
ね。
trips? Brainweaves, okay. I lit it in front of her
今から
eyes.
これであなたの鼻を焼きます。嫌でしょ？私も嫌です。ですから寝たふりをやめてください。
There was still no response. I put the flame right under her nose without hesitation. The tip of the flame touched the tip of her nose. The flame must have burned her nose here. It smelled terrible. I was already certain, but I continued anyway. I brought the flame closer to her eye. Her eyelid didn't move one bit. The flame burned her eyelashes, making it smell awful again. I turned the lighter off and then felt her throat and wrist. I didn't feel any warmth. I didn't feel a pulse either.
こいつスタンガンで死んだ
No way! That's what I was thinking. It's like she's old. I felt like that electric pulse might literally kill her. I didn't think it actually would have happened though. People I never watched gave me sub tiers. Nice! That's still fine. I'm getting a fat man to eat. Who are you getting? Which fat man are you getting to eat? Sour cream and chives flavor. Nice! Hope you enjoyed, Ruben. I'm an enjoyer of sour cream and chives. I think they're good. There's no way she could pretend to be asleep while being burned. Even if she could endure the pain, anyone would reflexively move their eyelids if a flame came close to their eyes. But she didn't. Oh, I see! Well, how are you getting him to eat, though? I turned the sink water on and aimed at the end of the hose at the hag's face. The water pressure wasn't too high. You changed your color to pink as well? By squeezing the tip of the hose, I could make it squirt out. I just will, fair. Water hit the hag in the face, but there's still no reaction. Shit. You've got to be kidding me. She's dead. The one who's at the center of everything is now dead. I knew she wouldn't talk, but I didn't expect her to end up dead. I checked emotes and what is this? I don't know. I don't know what that is. I don't even know how... Yeah. I don't know what that is. What Twitch is cooking up there. I never even thought of killing her. I walked around the room restlessly. I didn't feel guilty, but instead I felt frustrated with what I'd done. Come on, I need to calm down. What do I need to be afraid of? Calm down. And stay cool. What emoji section should I do next? I guess, like, what other emoji sections even are there? Stay cool. I can feel my brain starting to calm down, and my emotions cooling down with it. She was my true enemy. It's just that I killed her before confronting her about it. Sports? Sounds good. I think that seems like a good idea to do. Sooner or later, I would have killed her anyway. She wouldn't have said anything in the first place. So there wasn't really I should let her live. I didn't realize that until now, and that's why I got frustrated. My revenge for Satoshi-kun started with the unexpected death of my grandmother. It was such a strange feeling, like I was wearing sopping wet clothes. I replaced that feeling with anger. I couldn't forgive her. I couldn't forgive this hag for abusing the Hojo family, including Satoshi-kun. For so many years, she had cornered him psychologically as well as physically. She deserved an easy death from a stun gun. I picked up a whip that was hanging on the wall. The whip was designed to make sure the person on the receiving end got seriously injured. Why are we all changing colors? I don't care if as long as I have that. The spinning cat. I swung it up and then down. The sound reminded me of when I was a child hitting things with a jump rope. I pretended it was a whip. But unlike them, it made a purple mark on the hag's face and a reddish-black blood started oozing out. I swung it up and down again. This time, the whips hit her in the head. Her hair flew into the air. I saw a bunch of her hair on the tip of the whip. At the end of the bunches of hair, there's a piece of her skin. It seemed like the whip had ripped part of her scalp off. I continued to hit her with the whip. I didn't bother removing the hair beforehand. The tip of the whip was divided into many points, with each point having a fish hook on the end. These hooks, added to the speed of the whip, not only scratched the victim, but tore their skin off as well. I've been pink for so long, but now it's like so weird to see you anything other than pink. No, Roach, you changed to a dark pink? Or is it like, I can't tell, is it the same color pink or is that a darker pink? I'm seeing things, I feel. This feels lighter. I have no clue. That looks darker to me. The hag's hair is all messed up and her face was getting bloody. Yeah, but doing it to the corpse? Doing it to the corpse is the... It's very, like... That's a bit much, no? She started to look like a real demon. I stopped the whipping. Why are we all changing colors? Not because my arm was tired, because I couldn't stand the feeling of her hair on the tip touching me every time I swung the whip. I threw the whip at the hag. Breathing heavily, I realized I was covered in her hair. It almost felt like thousands of maggots crawling over me. I brushed it off violently. What do you mean changing colors? What are you guys are doing right now?
思い知ったか、鬼ババ。
I put my hands on my knees and exhaled roughly. It was then that I noticed it. I perked up and turned around. There it is. Person who had been watching me. You've been saying a couple streams ago that Shion was a ticking time bomb. Did I say that? Like, word for word? I wasn't wrong, but like, I don't even remember saying that. We aren't doing anything? No, we're not. I don't know, just something seems a bit off here, no? Or was it Dianea? Were you talking about Dianea said that? Well, nothing's off. Oh, okay. Really, I don't know, just something seems a bit weird, no? I said it, okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I was right. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, it was very, very clear. Like, she was about to set off something. I was referring to me. Okay. I sensed this person sitting in the tatami room. It enjoyed watching me torture my grandmother. An overwhelming emotion started to swallow me up. I tried desperately not to
い
feel
つ
it.
からそこにいたんだか言ってくれればよかったのに。
It was just there. Just like Satoshi-kun, it was just there. It was extremely uncomfortable to just have it be there.
そっか。レナが言ってたもんね。あんたお社様ってのは。
I smiled boldly, and yet I could feel my body shivering.
冗談じゃない。あんたがお社様で、たたりは本当にお社様のたたりってわけなの？バーカ！誰が信じるかよ！へ？
It was just my imagination. It couldn't be the curse of Oyashiro-sama. The curse couldn't be real. Everything... See? I never changed colors. No one did. But I'm pretty sure you started off as orange, no? You're making things up. I think you were orange before, though. No? What color even is that? That's like olive. Everything was done by humans. They made everything look like it was a curse.
まあ、あんたが見たいってんなら勝手だけどさ。私は見物料を取るつもりもない。でも、私の邪魔をしようってんなら、あんただって容赦しないよ。
No matter what I said, nothing happened. It was like trying to communicate with an insect. I felt like I was staring at a spider in the middle of its web, and the spider was staring back. I turned to the hag in the wheelchair. I couldn't leave her body here forever. But I don't need to make her death known, then it should be quick. And it's best if a body doesn't exist. Not even in the secret underground torture room. Are you colorblind? I don't think colorblindness makes me see colors randomly. I exhaled to try and calm myself down. Oh, I remember now. When I was a little girl, Kasai used to love making me feel scared. He often told me scary stories about various... It does? Yeah, but I don't think I'll see the same color, just randomly different things. You know, I could see like different colors. Like, I just don't see certain colors. But I don't think I just... My mom is an eye doctor. I know stuff. Oh, okay. I guess you know something I don't then. I used to love making me feel scared. He often told me scary stories about various horrible things. He recalled a story about the secret torture room of the Sonozaki family. According to the story, there's a well in the torture room for dumping bodies in. There's a pile of tortured corpses at the bottom of the well, and resentful moans could be heard echoing from there. And about halfway down the well, there's a different tunnel, which was a secret passage leading to the distant mountains. That bit was from Mion's telling of the story. You must be seeing things. I guess so. Maybe I need to get my eyes checked by an eye doctor myself. It's probably an amalgamation of tellings from different relatives. The room was supposed to be a huge secret, but everyone got loose lips at the chance of having fun, scaring the young successor.
ミオン、昔親戚の誰かが言ってたじゃん。この地下拷問室のどこかに隠し井戸があって、外へ出られる秘密の通路があるって話。
Whoa, I didn't mean to click that. What did I just do? Whoa, what did I just click? Wait, give me a second. No, not this. Okay, there we go. It's fixed. Never mind. Perfect. Okay, sounds good, Roach. Alright, give me a second. I will see you. Have a good rest of your night.
さっきの音は聞こえてなかった？鬼ババを鞭で叩く音。
Mion didn't reply, but I saw her bite her
大
lip.
丈夫。あんたは叩かない。でもね、あんたが不愉快だと、鬼ババをもっと叩くかもしれない。今度は無知なんかじゃなくて。
そこの奥、暗がりにも牢屋があるでしょ。その中。
Mion pointed weakly. I walked down to where her finger indicated. A light bulb lit up the cell. It was a lot smaller than the one Mion was in. It was very shallow, and I didn't even need to open the door to see how tiny it was. Of course, there's no well in there. I became angry, assuming she lied to me, but after considering it, I didn't actually think she would at this point. I opened the door and walked in. I noticed something immediately. There was an opening right in the middle of the cell. The opening was naturally disguised. The way the rocks and shadows were positioned perfectly hid the well. The tip of a rock inside the cell concealed the entrance. Unless you went in, you'd never notice. But it was such a shallow cell that nobody would even think of going in. Besides, the bars allowed you to see inside the well. Wait. The bars allowed you to see inside well enough. The cell's not even a few meters deep, so it would take a glance to see everything. Satsuko and Satoshi probably are, considering they can't tell between cauliflower and broccoli. Oh, like the yeah, I think so. Nobody would think of unlocking the door and walking in, but walking in was the only way anyone could find the well. Furthermore, there were many cells in this huge cave. Who'd think that one of them was hiding a secret well? The side of the well was dark. I couldn't see anything. But every little noise I made produced echoes. I could tell this was a very deep well. I brought a flashlight from the torture room and shone it down the well. It almost looked more like a vertical tunnel. Obviously a man-made one at that. There were wedges on the wall like a ladder, and they looked as if they were inviting me to descend. It's kind of ironic that the secret escape route from an underground torture room ended up being a well that takes you even further down. You had no way of knowing whether it would take you to freedom or to hell. Furthermore, there were the tortured bodies of past victims at the bottom. Who would be able to go down this well without hesitation? Nobody in their right mind could go down this well to look for a secret tunnel, hearing the voices of the dead all the while.
ミオンはあの井戸、降りたことあるの？降りたくもない。
それに関しては著しく同感。この拷問室の犠牲者たちが放り込まれた井戸になんか、好き好んで降りたくはないもんね。
I went back to the torture room and then returned to the cave, pushing the wheelchair concerning the hag. Mion screamed.
シオン、バッチャを落とす気？
落とすんじゃないよ。捨てるんだよ。もう死んでるしね。さっきの拷問で死んだんじゃないよ。多分鬼ババはスタンガンで死んだんだよ。心臓麻痺とかで。放置してもいいけど、虫が湧くと嫌でしょ？
ひどい。
なんなら、死後の鬼ババの世話もする？湧いてくるウジを箸でつまんで捨てるとかやってみる？
Mion covered her ears and shook her head. Everything I said seemed to bother Mion. Her own life wasn't guaranteed at this point.
シオン、どうしてこんなことを。
さーて、どうしてだと思います？
Nobody said anything for a while, but the silence was soon
サ
broken.
トシ、敵討ちってこと？
敵討ちになったかも。いきなり後ろからバチンだったから。ねえミオン、今こうして思い返すと、私はやっぱりばあさんを殺すだけの理由があったように思うの。なぜかわかる？単にサトシ君を殺した張本人だからってだけじゃないよ。それは嘘をついたから。
I slapped the hag's
あ
head.
んたも言ったよね。私が爪を剥がせば全て許すって。だから私は爪を剥がしたんだよ。3枚も。それでけじめがついたってことになったんだよね。でも約束は守られなかった。サトシ君はやっぱり消されてしまった。どうして？どういうことなの？
I continued to slap the hag's head. Her blood was all over my hand by then, and it felt gross. I tried to wipe it off her clothes, but then her hair got on my hand. I ran to the sink in the torture room and washed my hands with a brush. When I was done, I went back to
あの
Mion's cell.
時、サトシ君がいなくなってしまった後、あんたが来て言ったよね。サトシ君と私の関係は、けじめがもうついてたって。そしてこうも言ったよね。サトシ君の失踪の理由は、園崎本家は何も知らないと。
うん。
嘘だ！
Lied! 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 Oh, that's a lot of lied. 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 My shouts echoed throughout the cave. I was breathing heavily. Also, she said the line! She said the line! Like I used up all the air in my lungs.
あんたが何も知らないのは本当だと思う。あんた自身、ばあさんに真の意味で信頼を得ていたかは怪しいからね。でも、
ばあさんが本当に私のけじめでサトシ君を許したかはわからないよ。アマちゃんなあんたに本当のところを打ち明けるわけもない。
The hag didn't keep her promise. She said she'd forgive everyone, but she lied. She didn't forgive. She didn't forgive Satoshi-kun.
嘘つき、嘘つき、嘘つき、嘘つき、嘘つき、嘘つき。返してサトシ君。返してよサトシ君。返して。
I kicked the hag's leg repeatedly. Each time I kicked, the wheelchair made a squeaky noise. I ran out of breath and kneeled down. Mion was still covering her ears and was now shaking. There were tears in her
怖がら
eyes.
せちゃったね。ごめん。ミオンがミオンの言うように何も知らなかったなら安心して。でも、もしミオンも嘘をついていたなら仕方ない。その時は、どういう目に遭わされても仕方ないよね。
Okay. Well then. That was something. Shion is now losing her mind. She's going completely insane. Notebook page 183 and 185. Took the first step towards revenge. The string of payback achievement unlocked. She needs to see a mental ward. She probably does. She probably does. I wasn't planning to kill the hag so quickly. Was gonna kill her anyway, but it was too soon. People would normally assume that the Sonozaki family operates as a hierarchy, but that's not true. It's actually more like a system of government. Several ministries stem from the main family, and each forms a hierarchy of their own. These ministries don't communicate with one another, and the people who belong to a given ministry don't know what the other ministries are doing. That way, the Sonozaki's family dealings are kept perfectly safe. Of course, the most important people in the family govern several ministries. They know, of course, about their own ministries. They know a little bit about the ministries their relatives run. But none of them know everything. There are ministries that work in the open. There are ministries that work unseen. And there are some smaller ones that Orio runs herself. Mion seems to know about most of them, but she doesn't necessarily know them all. In fact, she doesn't know about the curse. Considering that, the fact that the hag died before I could interrogate her is a huge loss. I forgot, what was this one again? Okay, no, this was the exact same one. Okay, never mind. Yeah, I knew I only read one. I don't know why I thought I ended up reading the other one. Okay, notebook page 185. The head of the Kimiyoshi family was the one who called the main house most often after the 5th-year curse. My father called the second most. Oh, this is a Shion's thing still. My parents are still high in the hierarchy. Also, this is notebook page 185. What paper notebook has 185 pages? I feel like they don't, this is a thick notebook then, if that's the case. My parents were still high in the hierarchy, but the stir caused by my mother's disownment still hung over us, so we got treated as outcasts. I'm not saying that's my biggest concern, I'm just saying. If the pages increase from here, this is a big notebook. It's not like a very, usually a diary needs to be kept small to, it's like where you just record your thoughts, and it's like, you just, it's small. But it's like, this is big. This is the case. It's like, she can't really hide this thing. The fact that my father received so many calls proved how much the hag valued us despite the distance at which we were kept, demonstrating her own two-faced respect for both sides of the coin. My father seemed to be in charge of the intelligence bureau. He reported police information, gossip, and rumors going around in the Yakuza business to the hag. He silences, stirs, and distorts that information at her request. By the way, my servant Kasai is an old friend of my father's. That must be why Kasai knows many things. But I don't know. My father is involved in the curse's execution. My assumption is that although he gathered information on police investigation about the case, he wasn't involved in the execution itself. And the fact that my father and the hag have this close connection isn't widely known. People know that she uses this information network. They don't look very far beyond that. In the same way, it's possible that a curse execution team exists under the Hag's direct control. People just aren't aware of it. Okay. 2 years, 6 months, 5 days. No, she probably uses both sides, right? Obviously, but it's still a lot. I still think my favorite song was like the end of chapter 3. Like I can't remember how it sounds like. I have to go back and listen to it, but the end of chapter 3 song I really liked. I'll save here. Boom. And we continue. I was having such a happy dream. Satoshi-kun was in the dream. He was leading his normal life every day. Normal everyday life. He was back on the baseball team. Ide and I acted normally around him because we knew that's how mature people should act. We welcomed him back as if he had been there with us the whole time. Although he hits one practice sessions, he didn't do well in a real game. Come on, Satoshi-kun. 3 strikes already? I'm cheering for you. And Satoshi-kun pouted as he mumbled. Yeah, there it is. I felt tears pouring down my face. Oh.
Satoshi-kun. Satoshi-kun.
What's funny, Gubby? The happy dream faded out with my sobs. The harder I tried to focus on it, the faster it faded. Soon it was all gone. I could see the bright morning sun through a crack in the curtains. It was in Mion's room at the Sonozaki house. When did I come back? I was crouching in the corner of the room and crying. A dream is a dream. I wished I hadn't woken up. But one must wake up from a dream. We live in a world where there are no dreams, and that's why we always wake up. What? We live in a world where there are no dreams, and that's why we always wake up? I don't get what she's trying to say here. A blue screen with white text on your or anything computer. A blue screen with white text? I don't get it. I wasn't sure if I was the only one dreaming that day. Unless you're talking about the, like, your computer's run into a problem blue screen of death. That's the only thing I could think of with a blue screen of white text. Because I felt Satoshi-kun was right beside me.
Satoshi-kun? 帰ってきてくれたんだ.
There was no reply. Call the blue screen of death. Okay, yes, it is that. That was the rule. If it was Satoshi-kun, I'd wish it'd smile at me just once. But Satoshi-kun's presence faded away. It's time for the Silly Street collection. Let's go, hamburger. As if we were never there to begin with. I heard the phone ring by the front door. That's right. I was the only one in the house now. I had to answer it. I got up to walk to the front door. I felt unsteady, so I put my hand on the wall to support myself. I hardly got any sleep. It was like I had a bad cold. The phone continued to ring. I probably didn't have to answer it, actually. But I was still half asleep, and all I could think of was answering the phone. How was your day, hamburger?
園崎です。
朝早くにすみませんな。君吉でございます。おばあちゃんまだお休みですかな?
It was Uncle Kimiyoshi.
はい。昨日のが答えたみたいです。しばらく寝かせておこうと思います。
そうだね。無理に起こしちゃ悪いな。ミオンちゃんもこれから学校だよね。じゃあ枕元に伝言を置いといてもらってもいいかな。
わかりました。何と伝言しましょう。
ね。
Oh, music started. Something's gonna happen.
昨日の件で緊急に役員会を開くことになったんだけど、それをね、今日の夕方の5時から。
Okay, so how does she... Because the hag is dead. So what does she do about this?
わかりました。伝えておきます。
As soon as I put the phone down, it rang again.
はい、園崎です。
早朝から申し訳ありません。
Kasai is calling.
葛西と申しますが、ミオンさんですか？おはようございます。
笠井さんですか？おはようございます。
シオンさんはまだそちらにいらっしゃいますか？
Wasn't panicked, but I hesitated. I could tell him no, or I could play both Mion and Shion.
シオンはさっき顔を洗ってました。呼んできますね。
I decided to play two parts. Went back and forth down the hallway and picked up the phone again.
笠井、おはようで
Dude,
す。
she's just going to do two
お
voices.
はようございます。シオンさん、今日は登校されますか？
するわけないです。たるいし。
まあ、そんなとこだとは。
Why do you say bleh bleh bleh? Maybe Hamburger's a vampire. Just like how you're the witch and slash Oni. Hamburger's a vampire.
それでシオンさん、沖宮へ帰る足はありますか？若いのに迎えに行かせますが。
君吉のおじいちゃんとかそのあたりに送ってもらおうかなと思ってます。
You're a vampire burger.
私のことは放っておいてくれて OK です。
親父さんから出席日数だけは守らせるように厳命を受けていますので、私の小指のためにもご協力をいただきたいもんです。
まあ気が向いたら努力します。
How do you think she'll handle Kimiyoshi? I really have no clue. Only thing I can maybe think of is if she didn't dispose of the hag's body yet, maybe she does something with that, but that's like impossible because she butchered that body. Like it is unrecognizable. Like nobody's gonna it's gonna be something. I don't know how she's gonna handle it. Maybe she's gonna say that the hag's not feeling well and then she's gonna go as Mion in her stead. Maybe that's gonna be the thing.
それより笠井、聞いてる？
聞いてるとは？
昨日のあれ。
一応は。恐ろしい話です。
これまでのタタリの犠牲者はさ、みんなダム戦争の時の戦犯だったわけじゃない？それが今年はちょいと路線が違う感じですよね。どう思う？
さあ、私の預かり知るところの話ではありません。
Kasai wasn't the type to talk too much. It was about something complicated. He usually responded like that.
夕べの犠牲者の二人がどうしてお社様のタタリを受けた
She could
か。
say Michael Myers came. I mean, maybe it would work. Maybe she'd be able to play it off like that.
いいえ、
実は夕べ、なんか、綿流しの最中に、最後殿にこっそり忍び込んだらしいよ。鍵を針金か何かで開けて。
Kasai went silent for a while. I held my breath while waiting to see how he responded. I expected him to say something that he couldn't believe those people were chosen as victims just for sneaking into a storehouse. I expected him to say that it was just too unrealistic.
そうですか。バカなことを。
あまあ、富武さんも、そのあたりには疎いよそ者だったってことだね。
I went along with Kasai, but I felt disturbed on the inside. Kasai didn't wonder why breaking into the ritual storehouse would justify their deaths. I'd known Kasai for a long time, which is why I knew there was a heavy meaning to what he
で
said.
さ、笠井、実は、私もなんだけど。
What? She just said it?
入ったんですか？
Oh my gosh.
西宮殿に？シオンさんが？
高野さんに一緒にどうって誘われてさ。
Okay, what's gonna happen now? I do not like that she just said it outright.
高野さんと富武さん、そして私と、ほら、前原屋敷に引っ越してきた圭一って男の子と一緒
Yeah,
に。
like she literally folded under no pressure. I heard Kasai sighing heavily. Even though he didn't say a word, I could tell he was shocked. I'd never known him to act this way before.
シオンさん、去年ああいう一件があったばっかりなんですよ。今度はどうけじめをつけられるおつもりですか？
去年が爪3枚だったから、奮発して5枚くらいいっとく？ あ、ごめん。でも、ふざけてるわけじゃないんだよ。そりゃ私だってやばいとこだって認識はあったよ。少しは。でもさ、そこまでやばいことなわけ？
シオンさんは仮にも園崎本家に縁ある方です。今さらそんなこと言ってまかり通ると思いますか？
っていうか、だって私ずっと沖宮。ばあさんに嫌われて以降、ひなみ沢にはほとんど近づいてもいない。その上、学園に閉じ込められて過ごしてたんですよ。そんなの私が知るはずないじゃない。
I heard another sigh from Kasai. That sigh told me my excuses would be useless.
シオンさん、私はあなたの味方のつもりです。極力シオンさんを信じてあげたいと思っています。ですが、いくら私でもかばいきれないことがあります。第一、
ごめん。お姉が来たから切ります。じゃね。
I interrupted Kasai and hung up. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear Kasai reject me. He who had been my ally all my life.
チェ。参った。
I could hear the sound of the cicadas. The sound made it feel like I was being cooked on a huge frying pan, making a sizzling noise. That's one way to put it. I couldn't help feeling remorseful. Now I knew that sneaking into the ritual storehouse wasn't a laughing matter. But I really didn't know it at the time. Sure, the door was locked, so they didn't want anyone to go in. Then why did they change the lock? What did they say? I think it was Rika-chama that said the previous lock was too heavy for her, so she changed it to that cheap one? That's how Takano-san broke in. If the heavy lock was still there, this wouldn't have happened. I slapped my own forehead. And I took a deep breath. I had to calm down. What's the point of fussing now? I already passed the point of no return. There was no use thinking otherwise. The hag was already dead. Even if she wasn't, she was now at the bottom of the well. Therefore, it was already past the point where I could just cut my fingers off in apology. I felt so unstable. I'd walked on the fence around the swings at the park before, as if I was walking on a tightrope. It was fun because even if I fell, it was only a very short distance. But it wouldn't have been fun if I were really up high. At that very moment, I was in fact already on a tightrope that was a lot higher than the fence at the park. As soon as I took a step, the rope behind me would vanish. Couldn't step back because there was nothing behind me. That was, in short, the current situation I found myself in. Just standing in one spot was all I could do. Even if I never took another step, if I'd fall, if I wasn't careful. If I'd force myself to walk, the danger would only increase. But if I didn't move, I would fall eventually. I couldn't see what was ahead of me. There's no guarantee that I'd ever find firm ground. But if I stopped, there's only one fate waiting for me. I had to move onward. If staying here guaranteed death, then I'd rather try to walk, even if I die as a result. Even if there was a dead end ahead of me, at least I tried my hardest. In general, I tried to be optimistic. I could accept my life not lasting particularly long. But I wouldn't go easily. I'd struggle as much as possible. I'd already killed the hag. For that, there could be no other punishment than death. I knew my life would end soon. In other words, I was actually already dead.
死人がなおもあがこうとしたら、そりゃ特攻あるのみでしょ。
I clenched my fists tightly as I muttered. Even if I had to die, I couldn't die easily. This was my chance to avenge Satoshi-kun. Who did it, for what purpose, and why? I was going to investigate. I was going to question. I was going to expose. Yes, I was going to settle the score. I'd carry out the plan I came up with yesterday. I could hide the hag's death somehow. All I'd have to say is that she hadn't been feeling well since Watsunagashi. I could do it all while pretending to be Mion. Just in case her friends at school became suspicious, maybe I'd start telling them I hadn't been feeling well either. In fact, I did feel groggy from my lack of sleep. When I became Mion, Shion would automatically disappear. I'd already told Kasai that I'd stuck into the storage shrine. We'd probably end up telling people that I was demoned away due to the curse of Oyashiro-sama. The last person I'd have to think about was the fourth one who stuck into the ritual storehouse, Keiichi Maebara. Maybe I could use him as bait to lure out the enemy. Sorry, Kei-chan. You're gonna be my bait. I felt a little bad since I was starting to like him. With all that figured out, let's go to school. I'd gone to school as Mion before, so I knew how things worked. It was almost time to leave the house. So I wonder if that entire chapter 2 thing was that actually Shion playing as Mion? But then I just don't understand why, when Keiichi was like lying down on the floor, right, and got knocked out and everything, it was very clearly Shion in the cage. Like it said Shion. And it had her voice and everything. So why would Mion be like trying to fake her voice if that was the case? Because Mion at that point doesn't care. Because I feel like I remember, because I remember the voice being more high pitched. And that was Shion, so I don't know. And then it would make sense why she would kill Kimiyoshi because of Satoshi's thing. Rika, maybe also because of Satoshi. Satoko would actually make sense for the murder because she hated Satoko. And like she's already at the point of no return, so she's just committing murders after murders after murders. And then Keiichi and Rena, I don't know why Keiichi she would try to kill.
遅い遅い待っててくれたわけ先に行っちゃってもよかったのに。
あれ、ミオン、お前、顔が赤くないか？息も妙に荒いし。
みーちゃん、ひょっとして具合悪くない？
Yeah, this was the exact same thing that she arrived late and was sprinting as well. That was the exact same thing from before. Rena puts her hand on my
レ
forehead.
ナの手、冷たいな。みーちゃん、ちょっとだけど熱あるよ。そんな大したことないよ。半日もすればケロッと治っちゃうって。
本当に大丈夫かよ。あんまり無理するなよ。
あれ、ケイちゃん、気遣ってくれるの？嬉しいな。
You know, I always thought he was a goofball, so I was a little surprised. I thought they would tease me, but they didn't.
無理しない方がいいと思うな。先生にはお休みだって伝えとくよ。大丈夫大丈夫。風邪薬も飲んだし。
Yeah, this is the exact same conversation that they had. Hello, Chunky.
すぐに聞いてくると思うから。
じゃあ行こうか。くれぐれも無理するなよ。って言いながら、時間！
走らないと、間に合わない。
How are you doing, Chunky?
スリリングな朝になっちゃったね。鈍った体にはちょうどいいカツかもね。走ろ。
Good, nice. I'm glad to hear that.
それでは委員長。あ、起立！気をつけ！
I made the same mistake before. I never learn, do I?
みーちゃん、本当に大丈夫かな？今日は具合悪そう。あら、そうなんですの。それはよくありませんわね。
It was a good idea to make them believe I was sick. Even if I did things differently from Mion, I had an excuse.
まあ、その、
I mean, they have the
女の子に
same
は
voice as
体
well.
調が悪くなる日もあるってことだな。
僕にはそんな日
What
は
is
ない
that,
のです
Chunky?
よ。
Why is there an emote for just something you could type out? I don't have those days. Okay, Rika. Mion's friends kept each other occupied and left me alone. Keiichi Maebara. He might suddenly disappear one day. I couldn't let that happen. That would be like letting a fish take the bait and swim away while I was fast asleep with a fishing pole in my hands. I couldn't miss the moment the enemy took a bite out of Keiichi. I had to be very careful. It was impossible to keep my eyes on him 24 hours a day. Spying on him at school like this wasn't good enough. I offer mango! Holy the mango. Should I have met with Shion and let her explain that he's dead? And that makes sense now why Shion started doing the maniacal laughter when Keiichi called her and called her out. Because it's like... Yeah, there's a lot of things making sense now. But I still feel like this is not the exact same timeline as in chapter 2. Why? Yeah, why? I don't know. I thank you for the mango, though. The emote is just called Mango of Offering. No mango for her? Damn. You know what? I think that's fair. The Answers arc is answering! Oh my gosh. Maybe we could set up a strategy together. I didn't think Kate should realize how serious a crime it was to step into the ritual storehouse. I hadn't, after all. Since last year, all the incidents that related to the curse had probably been investigated in secret. People involved with the 3 families would know about the incidents from last night, but Keiichi shouldn't know anything. If he knew where he stood now, he'd be more cautious too. That should make him aware of his surroundings, and maybe he would notice if anything odd took place. An egg for why are these offering just fruits and like vegetables and like just random stuff for no reason? And random food stuff items. A teacher caught him sleeping, so she ordered him to go wash his face. He walked down to the hallway. Eggs aren't vegetables or fruits. That's why I said random. That's why I said everything else. Okay? As well. Why am I getting flipped off now? I was sleepy too. I had to be alert, but I couldn't clear my mind due to my lack of sleep. I decided to go home early. Since I'd been pretending to be sick since morning, my request was approved. Okay, and this is where Keiichi went to his face, then saw Mion leaving. As I exited the building, I saw Keiichi washing
やっ
his
ぱ
face.
ケイちゃんはこっちの流しを選んだ
And this is
か。
where Keiichi thought that Mion was questioning him.
表の方が気分いいもんね。
あ、ミオンか。授業、サボるなよな。
It looked like it felt refreshing for him to wash his face with cold water. I washed my face too, but it didn't feel as good as it looked.
ミオン、風邪の方はいいのかよ。眠いのは寝不足じゃなくて、風邪薬の副作用なんだろ？
あはは。実は内緒なんだけど、昨日はお祭りの後で親族の宴会に巻き込まれちゃってさ。それで、エンドレスに。
Gulp. I pretended to drink with an invisible glass.
徹夜明けかよ！心配して損した。
We were from Keiichi's POV into yes. No, this is the exact conversation we had. Like I remember this exact conversation as well. Like this day happened exactly like the same in chapter 2. There's no differences at all whatsoever. Like it was the exact words being said, exact conversation, exact everything. Keiichi exaggerated his reaction, but he still seemed worried.
じゃあな、俺は教室に戻るぜ。帰りは気をつけろよ。ふらふらして、側溝や用水路に落ちるなよ。
Keiichi turned around to go back to the classroom.
そうそう、ケイちゃん。
I stopped Keiichi. In response, turned around.
なんだ？
変なことを聞くけど、深く考えないで答えてね。
そりゃ内容によりけりだな。
昨日の綿流しの晩さ、富武さんと高野さんに会わなかった？
I noticed Keiichi's body tense up. His reaction proved that he felt guilty about sneaking into the ritual storehouse. He was frightened that Mion Sonozaki might know something about it. I guess this was enough to give him a certain impression of Mion
富武
Sonozaki.
さんと高野さんはわかるよね。ほら、ケイちゃん、お祭りの前日準備の時、シオンと一緒
But then I
に
don't
4人でお
understand.
話ししてたでしょ？
No, but then that still doesn't make sense because Mion, when Keiichi and Rena confronted her initially, she gave like a huge backstory on the entire Sonozaki. I guess no, but then there was the entire thing with the canned food, which it could have been Shion, and that thing freaked Shion out with canned food in general. So maybe she does know the exact same stuff as Mion did. But then she still entered the thing of quote unquote, how do you say? The household representative mode or whatever. What is Freebird? I could clearly see how dismayed Keiichi felt. He was trying to come up with an excuse.
さあ、どうかな。あったような、合わなかったよう
Yeah,
な。
and this is Keiichi's most he's just so bad at lying. Yep. He was both a bad liar and a bad actor. He wasn't really that intelligent at all. Well, that would make him a suitable friend for Mion. He was just a brat, unlike Satoshi-kun. Although when it came to lying and acting, Satoshi-kun was about the same level. Maybe Keiichi should be credited for at least trying to tell a lie. Satoshi-kun wouldn't have even said a thing. Which also makes sense why Mion wanted to bring Keiichi down into the... Why Shion wanted to bring Keiichi down into the... Why Mion wanted to bring Keiichi down to the dungeon to kill Keiichi in front of Mion so she could be tortured or whatever. I didn't need to be thinking about him right now.
そう。じゃあもう一つ質問ね。同じく昨べ、シオンに会わなかった？
This was a very mean question. Keiichi was perplexed as I'd expected.
それ、昨日も聞いたよな。俺、会ったかどうかわからないって答えたと思ったぜ。
Eh? I asked him that yesterday? Must have meant that Mion Sonozaki asked him that question. In other words, she asked him that after he left the storehouse and got back together with his friends. Damn you, Mion. When I asked her, she said she had no idea we went into the ritual storehouse. Shit.
そうだっけ？また改めて聞いたら、違う答えが返ってくるかなって思ってさ。
Damn! Wait. Just thought I'd get a different answer if I asked you again. Wait, that's crazy.
どうして会ったかどうかをそんなに気にするんだよ。
He was getting defensive. Keiichi could not hide his panic as he flared up
大し
at
た
me.
ことじゃないの。富武さんと高野さんと、シオンとケイちゃんをね、悪く言ってる人たちがいるの。何が悪いんだかはよく聞いてないんだけどね。
Keiichi was really perplexed now. This wasn't fun at all, but it could still be an interesting game.
私、ケイちゃんが悪いことをするなんて信じてないから。でも、ちょっとだけ聞いてみたかったから聞いてみたの。不愉快な思いをさせてごめんね。
I made sure Keiichi felt a sense of crisis, then left. Nobody can tell us apart. We're Mion and Shion. Perfect twins. Notebook page 186. When I returned to the Sonozaki house, I saw a woman with an apron on. It was a housekeeper. Her name was Shimiko-san. Yeah, I'm waiting until the never-ending notebook just keeps adding more and more pages onto it. Was a housekeeper, yeah. The hag had a few housekeepers who took care of the chores around the house.
ミオンちゃん、本当によかった。困ってたんですよ。
I can't remember when Mion was there alone. When Mion was there, were there any housekeepers? I can't remember.
ありゃ、シミコさん。何かご用で？
Freebird. Okay. Why do all old people talk like this? They're just enthusiastic, I guess. Today was her turn to come help out the house. She'd arrived, but the gate was locked and she couldn't get in. She called, but there's no answer, so she had been standing there not knowing what to do.
抹茶ですね。綿流しの祭りで面白くないことがあったみたいで。
Shimiko-san tried to remember if she had done something wrong.
別に無視してるんじゃなくて、寝込んでるだけなんです。昨べ、だいぶ遅くまでカリカリしてたから、多分まだ起きられないんじゃないでしょうか。知ってるでしょ？一度機嫌を損ねたバッチャが、どれだけの期間機嫌が悪いかを。
そうですね。困りましたね。
しばらく顔を見せない方がいいと思います。シミコさんに悪気がなくても、バッチャは何かと咎めてくるに違いありませんから。こういう時は私に任せといてください。
Alright, Gubby. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good rest of your night. Thanks, yeah. Just hope you enjoy the rest of your day. You're talking emojis for 1 minute. Alright, let's see how that turns out. But Chunky's not leaving, it's Gubby.
そうですか。
Yeah, thank you, thank you. See you in the next one.
それは助かりますけど。
シミコさん、申し訳ないんですけど、他のお手伝いさんにもしばらく来なくていいと伝えてもらっていいですか？バッチャの機嫌が治ったらこっそり電話しますから。しばらくそっとしてあげてください。
What is that one, Chunky? Ayo. Shimiko-san bowed, then left on her bicycle. Anyone who had experienced Granny's wrath would understand. I headed into Mion's room, set her alarm clock for 2 p.m., and crawled into her bed. I needed to recover quickly. I had to be sharp, cool, calm. Sharp, calm, and cool-headed. What is that dance? What even is that? Oh, okay, it's the Pokemon? I have no clue what that is even meant to be. School should be out by 2 p.m. Maybe I'd get in touch with Keiichi. I'd have to call him. There'd also be a staff meeting at the Food Shrine Assembly Hall in the evening. All the leaders of the three families, their relatives, and town council members would gather at this meeting. They were all authority figures in Hinamizawa. I'd be attending in place of the hag who was sick. I'd worry about the rest when I got there. People should notice that Mion and the hag were missing for a long time. I didn't need to worry, as I had plenty of time. I checked the alarm once more and fell asleep as if somebody switched me off. Why always use this duck with the knife?
園崎の妹の方です。こんにちは。今はお時間大丈夫ですか？
シオンか。ミオンと同じで、今日は寝不足で寝込んでるんじゃないかと思ったぜ。
え？ひょっとしてお姉、早退ですか？お姉らしい。
Keiichi had no idea that the Mion he saw earlier was actually me. You don't notice when we talked in person. There's no way you'd notice on the phone. I never knew that playing two roles would be so much fun. To feel such enjoyment in this game of life and death. Maybe I was getting used to the situation. Or maybe my senses had gone numb.
ごめんな。ちょっと親が電話待ちをしてるんで、そんなに長話はできないんだ。何の用だ？
お話ししたいことがあったんですけど、長電話が無理じゃ仕方ないですね。
じゃあさ、会って話をしないか。ついでに図書館にも案内してもらえるとありがたい。
図書館って駅前の私立図書
Okay,
館
yeah,
で
so
すか？
this is the last time that they meet in person. And then they never meet again after the
別
library.
にいいですよ。バイトのついでってことで。
We decided to meet in Okinomiya. It wasn't easy to get there from Hinamizawa, but I had to hurry. I couldn't run into Keiichi as he was heading there himself. I recall that the key to the hag's motorcycle was in her secret drawer. Why am I getting flipped off? Keiichi, I assumed, was going to ride his bicycle. I'd like to get to Okinomiya before he did. I'm gonna go do something with Hammy. Okay, hope you enjoy. Yeah, thanks for stopping by, Diana. Enjoy whatever it is you're gonna be doing with Hamburger. Keiichi arrived quite a bit later than me. Motorcycles are faster after all. There were hardly any traffic lights to worry about on the way here either.
ミオンと違って、シオンは待ち合わせ時間を守るな。しみじみ。
お姉を標準にされると、いろいろと困ります。
少しフラフラしてないか？お前も昨べは寝不足だろ？隠しても無駄だぞ。で、学校を早退したに違いない。
残念でした。私はそもそも今日はずる休みしてますので、私、お姉より容量いいですから。
おいおい。
Reappears from the Shadow
容
Realm.
量いいとは言わないと思うぞ。
じゃあ、先に用事を片付けます？時間もそんなにないですから。図書館へ行くんですよね。
ああ、頼むよ。お袋の借りてる本の返却期限が今日までらしいんで。図書館は遠いのか？
すぐ近くですよ。
I meant it when I said we didn't have much time. I had to hurry a little. I was just gonna talk with him on the phone, but I ended up coming all the way to Okinomiya. After our talk, Keiichi would slowly head back to Hinamizawa on his bike. I have to rush back there while making sure I didn't run into him. I should get, like... Honestly, like, you putting this dance emote, realize that I need to get, like, a better dance emote for... Like, that's part of why I was thinking of, getting a different ones. I need to hear everything they were gonna discuss, but... I didn't want to be late. Maybe I could be a little late. Okay, yeah. I didn't need everything. This was the Shishibone Public Library. It was sizable, filled with a collection of moldy, smelly books. But they did have air conditioning, and it was quiet. It was the perfect place when you wanted to be alone. Last year, I came here a lot to think about various things. Real Japanese, let's go. This was where I first met Takano-san. I didn't want to run into her with Keiichi, but I remember that she was already dead. The first floor of the building was occupied by government offices. The library itself was on the second floor, so we had to walk up a huge staircase to get there. I tasted cooler on my skin as soon as I walked through the automated door. Unlike outside, it was very quiet in here. The room temperature was both comfortable and suitable for books. I could smell the scent of old pages.
どこの図書館も似たようなもんだな。
Keiichi walked up to the return table after he said so. Because it was a weekday, there was hardly anyone around. It was very quiet. I was going to chat about some ordinary things and then move on to the main subject. After Keiichi returned the books, I invited him into the inner section of the library. Keiichi knew Mion well, but he didn't know me at all. He showed an interest in our life story. This was exactly where Takano-san told me about the true history of Hinamizawa a year ago. I was about to tell Keiichi about the things that were very similar to that. Did God have a sense of irony?
言われてみれば、例のおもちゃ屋も親類の人が経営してるみたいだったな。そういえば、エンジェルモートも親類の人が経営してるんじゃないのか？
I told him the reason why the Sonozaki family was so powerful in this area. Turns into cat! Why'd you just turn into a cat? I'd assume that since Keiichi came from the city, there was a good chance he couldn't even begin to understand how one old family could literally control an entire area. Unless I explained to him how powerful the Sonozaki family was, he wouldn't understand what kind of danger was barreling towards him.
特に金融、不動産関係は強いですね。あと、商工会議所の役員も何割かは、園崎姓かその親類がついてます。沖宮一帯を評伝に、市議会議員と県議会議員にも園崎がいますし。
ちょっと待て。なんだかすごい話になってきたぞ。
What'd you do today, Chunky?
沖宮の町中に
I guess no,
親類が経営する店があっ
what
て。
are you going to do today?
特
Is
に
it maybe a
金
better way
融、
to say.
不動産に強い。
Or, I don't know. Either way.
しかもその上、商工会議所の役員の何割かが親類で、しかも地元選出の議員までいて。
Keiichi counted with his fingers. He was clearly surprised to hear all that about the Sonozaki family. It seemed he was flexible enough to accept even something that sounded outrageous to him. He was starting to understand things, although slowly. The way he viewed Shion Sonozaki was changing little by little, too. That should be enough background information. Now I could go on to explain about Mion Sonozaki, the successor. Then I changed the subject, like Takano-san did with me. I'd go on and talk about the curse of Oyashiro-sama and the series of mysterious
ひょっ
deaths.
として、園崎家って、この辺り一帯じゃ、すごいんじゃ。
ねえ、すごいんです。
A fat man with a cigarette suddenly cut into our conversation. Oishi? How was he here?
どうも、こんにちは。今日はデートですかな？羨ましいですね。
そうだと思ったら邪魔しないでほしかったですね。おいさん。
What timing? It couldn't be coincidence. I knew this man too well. He was crafty, sly, and clever. His presence here just can't be a coincidence. Did he see us somewhere in town and follow us? But why? Did he need something from me, Keiichi, or perhaps both of us? From what I could guess, I didn't think it was me that he wanted something from. It was almost like he was trying to keep Keiichi away from me. Oishi was aware I gave a false testimony to protect Satoshi-kun last year. Maybe he didn't think he could talk to Keiichi if I was around. Why did Oishi need to talk to Keiichi? It must be about the incident from yesterday. I'm sure there were plenty of plainclothes officers at the festival, so they had to have seen who was the last with the victims. In other words, Keiichi and me. But Oishi knew I was hard to deal with. That's why he was focusing on Keiichi at present. Why did he have to show up at a time like this?
前原さんでしたよね。あなたもタフな人ですね。園崎姉妹を二股かけるなんて。
いや、そんな、二股だなんて。
Keiichi looked at me, hoping for assistance. He blushed, the way he panicked reminded me of Satoshi-kun. That aside, this wasn't going well. Oishi might even start talking about my relationship with Satoshi-kun. I didn't want him to, nor did I want Keiichi to have any preconceptions. Oishi took a quick glance at me. His eyes told me something. He was purposely talking about the things I'd rather not talk about. He was basically telling me to leave or continue on to something that was worse than what they were currently talking about. He didn't use words, but his eyes clearly communicated that already. That big, fat weasel.
ごめんなさい、ケイちゃん。私もうバイトの時間なんです。
あ、そうなのか？
I realized that I wouldn't achieve anything like this, even if I stayed longer, so I used my part-time job as an excuse to leave. Oishi looked at me and grinned. Damn it. He won today, but I'll win next time.
そういえば、今日はシオン、何か話があるんじゃなかったのか？なんなら。
うん、また今度。あ、バイトが終わったら電話します。夜なら電話大丈夫ですよね。
ああ、大丈夫だと思う。
じゃあ、今夜電話しますので、
Yeah,
その
since
時に。
he's like the only new person, I guess that does make sense.
じゃあ、
Damn, is that where that ends? Or is that the halfway point? Okay, yeah. The Hag's motorcycles become my primary means of transportation. My next stop was a staff meeting at the Furude Shrine's assembly hall. It was easy to imagine how a normal meeting would play out as if it were just celebrating the end of the Watanagashi, but today's staff meeting was likely going to be as strained as the Sonozaki family councils. Yes, this staff meeting was going to deal with the heart of Hinamizawa. I couldn't let my guard down, even for a moment. I rested for a while at the house, then left for the meeting. I walked up the long stairs to the Furude shrine. At the top, I saw some elderly men smoking in front of the hall. Since they had a minor fire a long time ago, it had been made into a non-smoking area.
Ade, Mion-chan kai?
The head of the Kimiyoshi family, Uncle Kimiyoshi, noticed me and waved. He must not have expected Mion to come alone. Normally it would have been either the hag or by herself, or Mion tagging along as an
バッ
assistant.
チャは、夕べのあれ以来、機嫌を相当悪くしちゃいまして、誰も近づけず、布団にこもりきりです。
They all understood how troublesome she was when she was in a bad mood. They smiled bitterly in sympathy.
じゃあ今日はミオンちゃんが園崎家当主代行ということでいいね。お嬢さんから話とか聞いてる？
一応。
What did he mean, has Oryo-san told you anything? That line by itself didn't really explain much. The staff meeting was usually led by the mayor, the head of the Kimiyoshi family, and he asked me, as a substitute for the Sonozaki family head, if I'd heard anything from her. I then realized who was supposed to lead today's staff meeting.
おじ、じゃなくて、君吉さん、今日の会合だけど、司会、私じゃないと。
According to the ranking order at the family councils, any substitute for the Sonozaki family head is above the Kimiyoshi family head. In other words, I'd have to lead today's meeting. There's no way I could do that.
大丈夫大丈夫。おじいちゃんがやるから、ミオンちゃんは座ってればいいよ。お嬢さんから聞いてる話があったら、話してくれればいいからね。
村長、そろそろ始めますかいね。全員揃いましたね。
The smokers put out their cigarettes and went back into the hall. The tables were set in a horseshoe shape, and I was told to sit next to the chair reserved for the chief. The seat opposite mine was empty, considering its location was probably for the Furude family head, Rika Furude. But somebody had said earlier that everybody was already here. Either Rika-chan had called in absent, or the empty seat was just a formality. Knowing the subject of this meeting, I don't think the Furude family head would even want to attend. Even if Rika-chan actually attended, she wouldn't be able to say anything. All she'd usually do at the Sonozaki family councils was draw pictures on a notepad. She would probably end up drawing pictures in this meeting too. Besides, they probably didn't want her to hear anything unpleasant. In this way, the empty Furude family seat was easily explained. When everyone was seated, the head of the Women's Association served tea. She gave me an evil look, trying to tell me to help out. I got up and did so. After that, everyone fell quiet and the secretary stood up.
それでは皆さん、本日は大変お忙しい中、緊急にお集まりいただきまして、誠にお疲れ様です。それでははじめに、村長さんからご挨拶をいただきます。村長、どうぞ。
I just started thinking, what if, like, the person who actually died that day was Shion? Like, thinking back to chapter 2 when someone got pushed out a window, what if Shion actually did die that day? And then Mion was the one who went up to Keiichi's thing, but I don't understand why she would have to kill Keiichi, or try to kill him.
座ったままで失礼します。ケンちゃんも座ったままでいいよ。今日は平日の夕方にお集まりいただきまして、また昨日は綿流しを本当にお疲れ様でございました。おかげさまで本年も事故もなく大変な盛況のうちに終了させることができました。祭りにも村中から大勢がいらっしゃり、本当に素晴らしい祭りになったものと思うとります。来たの何人だっけ？大本営発表だと5000人だそうです。
5,000? That many people? Okay. Like, 5,000? I didn't think it was that big of a festival. Everyone laughed except
今
me.
後もますますの文化の向上のために一丸となって頑張ってまいりたいと思います。よろしくお願いいたします。
I mean, it definitely makes sense. Like, the main thing I was like that was weird for me with Oishi was the thing in chapter 2, how he was so, like, intent on, like, just keeping Keiichi alone. Like, chapter 3, it made sense, because, like, you know, he's the murder suspect and all that. Like, it makes sense to isolate him, but chapter 2 was the thing that was weird, but now this makes sense. Clap, 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 clap. Applause with only 8 people, it doesn't sound so great.
それでは引き続き、議事の方に入ってまいりたいと思います。本日の議事を、君吉村長さんにお願いしようと思います。承認していただける方は、拍手でご承認願います。
Clap, 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 clap.
ありがとうございます。それではただいま、万座でのご承認をいただきましたんで、君吉村長さんに司会を譲りたいと思います。よろしくお願いします。
どうもケンちゃんお疲れ様。
Ken. We haven't heard that name yet, have we?
では司会を引き継ぎましたので、本日の議事に入りたいと思います。申し訳ない。カーテン閉めましょうかね。
Everyone closed the curtains nearest to them. The sun was still up, but with all the curtains closed, the room became dark. The village chief explained the details of the incident as well as what went on with the police. Police vehicles discovered Tomitake-san's body on its way back to Okinomiya last night. Horoshi's special curse unit was standing by, expecting something to happen for the 5th time, so they responded quickly. Since Tomitake-san and Takano-san were rarely apart, Oishi got in touch with the neighboring prefectural police departments and asked them to go look for her. As a result, they found a burned body of a woman in the mountains of Gifu Prefecture. And the body was then identified as Mio Takano. Considering the circumstances, the police ended up labeling the incident as the 5th of the ongoing series of mysterious deaths. When he finished, there was a dead silence. I watched to see who would speak first. Nobody said a thing. And it was Kimiyoshi-san looking at me. Ah, this is where the head of the Sonozaki family would
ミオ
speak.
ンちゃん、お嬢さんは何か言ってたかい？
Everyone looked in my direction. I was sure they could see the hag in me.
園崎家当主代行、園崎ミオンです。本日は当主お寮に代わりまして、よろしくお願いいたします。
I became Mion. I tried to become as cold and unfeeling as the Mion I witnessed a year ago. The cold version of Mion was inside of me. That was me. I was her.
不幸にして、お社様のお怒りは5年目にも下されることになりました。大変悲しいことです。
Everyone was held captive by my words. I wasn't a little girl anymore. The hag was speaking through my mouth. They all heard me and trembled in fear.
どうして今年もたたりがあったか、わかる方はいますか？
After my question, everyone whispered to each other.
そう。西宮殿の金を犯し、土足で聖域を踏み荒らして汚れを持ち込んだからです。
何いうことだ。
A few elderly men got up and yelled.
あ、本当にが信じられん小僧どもだ。
腹渡引き裂いても飽きたりんガキ友じゃん。
お社様、お怒りをお鎮めください。
なんてこと、なんてこと。お社様、
これだからよそもなすっか。なんも考えんねえ。ガクガクもないよ。さらんと。あれすってれんこってなるね。バチ当たりどもんが。
The angry old men yelled as they trembled in fear. Their sudden change scared me more than a little. Even Uncle Kimiyoshi, who was usually so gentle and sweet, became like a demon of war, cursing those who broke the rule of the ritual storehouse. Or become like a raging ocean inside the assembly hall. Their yells spun about like a whirlpool. They roared, crashed, and howled. Even while doing nothing but watch, I felt myself turning pale. Mion threatened me yesterday, and Kasai had been shocked this morning. What I saw before my eyes was similar to that. Even the sweet and gentle Uncle Kimiyoshi was saying they deserved to die. I was fearful of the sudden change in those elderly men. More than anything, the fact that they all believed that those people deserved to die for trespassing is what terrified me. It wasn't just that, of course. The real thing I was scared of was that I was one of the people they wanted dead. In other words, it was almost like they were telling me to die of the curse. If they were to find out I snuck into the ritual storehouse, it was very possible that they would strangle me on the spot. Actually, they might not kill me that easily. By then, I was certain. The people in this room were true believers in Oyashido-sama, just like the hag. They wouldn't hesitate to murder whoever made Oyashido-sama angry on his behalf. Even if they didn't carry out the killing themselves, they pretend they didn't see anything. Yes, not even if my head was cut off right in front of them. Everyone here would act in collusion and say I never attended today. If they all testified that they waited, and I didn't show, I'd be demoned away. It would be far too easy for them to erase someone and have them disappear. There's no mistake. The people linking the hag and the curse were definitely here at this meeting. I continued speaking. I was me on Sonozaki. I was on the side responsible for the curse. Therefore, at this moment, I didn't need to worry about anything. Nobody could tell the difference between Mion and me. That's what would keep me safe.
お静かにお願いします。
ほら、静かに静かに。
Uncle Kimiyoshi helped me to quiet everyone, but his tone was violent. He really scared me. Everyone gradually became silent.
西宮殿に忍び込んだ族は4人。あと2人います。
People once more became restless upon hearing that, but Uncle Kimiyoshi yelled at them again as they settled
富
down.
武さんと高野さんは、分別のつくお年だったはずですからね。お社様のたたりが直ちに下りましたが、もう2人は子供です。まだたたりは免れていますが、何のけじめもなく許されることはありません。
Everyone stayed quiet that time. They had all turned genuinely pale, trying not to miss a word I said. After all, they were thinking that the kids I mentioned could be their own relatives, or even grandchildren. They want to know who they were, to put their minds at ease.
その2人の狼藉者は、園崎紫音、そして前原圭一。
I could feel the air getting drier. It was so dry it almost felt like it was going to start making a crackling noise.
園崎紫音はすでに
I couldn't even hear the old people breathe. I took a peek at Uncle Kimiyoshi, who was sitting next to me. He adored Shion as if she were his own granddaughter, but she'd been demoned away. I wanted to see how distressed and sad he'd looked, and when I saw his face, I felt a sensation on my back as if my skin itself was making a cracking noise. He didn't even have an expression on his face. Uncle Kimiyoshi adored me. I loved him, and I thought he loved me too. That's why I expected him to be saddened after learning that I met with such a cruel fate. What was I thinking? The memory of his warm smile shattered inside me. There's no way of describing the fear I experienced in that moment. In mere words, he had suddenly changed to something I didn't even realize. Uncle Kimiyoshi noticed me looking at him and spoke.
もう一人の前原圭一は
まだです。
I had to take a deep breath to regain my composure.
西宮殿を犯した4人、すべてにお社様はたたりを下されるでしょう。前原圭一も例外ではありませんよ。
Chilling looks, cruel looks, emotionless looks, shrewd looks, and the looks of people who are about to snap. I could feel the demons chewing my words while they stared at me with their sharp eyes. I could see some of them sticking their snake-like tongues in and out. I could see flames in some of their eyes, and they were memorizing the names of the intruder the curse had yet to fall upon. And so the meeting went on. We were told not to tell the police too much, to report what they asked us, and to hold another meeting whenever something of significance happened. If something unexpected took place, we were to get in touch with either the head of the Kimiyoshi family or the head of the Sonozaki family for instructions on what to do. With those closing remarks, the meeting was over. It was already getting dark outside. Being in a valley surrounded by mountains, once the sun went down in Hinamizawa, it got dark quickly. Even if it was hot during the day, it cooled down quickly at night. The elderly people said goodbye to each other and left on their bicycles, on their motorcycles, or in their cars. Uncle Kimiyoshi waved them goodbye and started to head home himself. I called after him.
君吉さん、この後ご予定はありますか？
Shion's realizing she's truly alone, yep. And this is where she murders Kimiyoshi. I called him Kimiyoshi-san instead of Uncle Kimiyoshi. He stopped.
いや、何もないよ。
うちへ寄ってもらえませんか？
お嬢さんが呼んでるのかい？
はい。直接会って話したいことがあるんだとか。
じゃあ、やるかな。
Uncle Kimiyoshi arrived at the Sonozaki house. He often came to this house to have secret meetings with the hag, so he wasn't suspicious at all. I invited Uncle Kimiyoshi into the living room. I served him a cup of tea and told him I was going to fetch the hag. I left the room and killed some time down the hallway.
ばっちゃ、着替えてから来るそうです。ちょっと時間かかるかもです。
いやいや、ゆっくり待ってるから。
Uncle Kimiyoshi relaxed as he sipped his cup of tea. Sat next to him.
シオンの話じゃないかなと思います。
I mentioned my name and watched for his reaction. Uncle Kimiyoshi looked so grim. I couldn't even tell if he had heard me. I decided to continue speaking until he reacted in some
シ
way.
オンは去年がありますからね。北条家の人間なんかと懇意になるなんて
去年は、爪を剥いで許してもらったんだったね。
ええ、3枚剥いで。
Uncle Kimiyoshi folded his arms and thought for a
シ
while.
オンちゃんは、今は、
地下にいます。
様子はどうなんだい？
Uncle Kimiyoshi sounded worried. When I heard that, I felt relieved that Uncle Kimiyoshi was on my side. His anger in the assembly hall was
ず
just
っ
an
と泣い
act.
ていますよ。
ミオンちゃん、率直なところ、お嬢さんはシオンちゃんのことをどうするって言ってるんだ？
具体的なことは聞いてません。ご存知と思いますけど、バッチャは怒りが度を超えると逆に無
It
口に
seems
なり
that
ますから
people
ね。
are mad about the curse, right? But the more I hear, I really don't know anything about audio, so I can't say anything. But it feels like a lot of people do not want the murders to happen. From seeing it from these perspectives.
西宮殿に入ったんだもんな。しかも自分とこの身内がな。そりゃそうだろうな。
Uncle Kimiyoshi thought that the hag must have been unsure what to do with
おじい
Shion.
ちゃんは、シオンの処遇、どうなると思います？
そりゃ、爪3枚よりもっとむごいことになるだろうな。お嬢さんのことだから、身内に甘くするってことはないと思う。むしろ身内だからこそ、厳しく当たるだろうからな。
何しろ、西宮殿に入ったんですものね。それは許されないことでしょうね。
さすがにな、西宮殿はな。
でも、シオンもかわいそうかもしれません。だって、ずっとひなみ沢から遠ざけられてきたんです。西宮殿の不可侵性は知ってはいたでしょうが、そこまでいけないことだという認識は、多分なかったんでしょうから。
確かに、シオンちゃんは不憫だよな。
あたしか、シオンか。背中の入れ墨を見る以外に、私たちをどんな方法で区別できるというのですか？何もない。ミオンとシオンなんて区別自体が、何の意味もないのに。
Twins are proof of bad luck. One should be eliminated as soon as they are born. Such is the family precept. The hag actually put her hands around my neck right after I came out of the womb. That's how the story went, at least. In the end, the hag didn't kill me, but instead pretended I didn't exist. She forced herself to call one of us Mion and the other Shion. She adored Mion and hated Shion. My sister and I never understood why we had to go through that. We didn't care who was Mion or Shion. So one day we came up with an idea. We decided to share the joy Mion experienced and the sadness Shion experienced. We often switched places. We were both Mion at the same time we were both Shion. Adults around us tried to put different clothes on us or style our hair differently so they could tell us apart. That was nonsense. No matter what they did to us, all we had to do was switch places and nobody could tell us apart. Finally, they decided that we switched places because we were always together. On that day, Shion got to go to an amusement park. Since then, we've been separated.
ミオンちゃん。
私には、シオンがどういう処遇になるか想像もつきません。そして、どんなことに決まっても、意見できる立場にありません。バッチャは、身内であれば、むしろ意見を聞かない人ですし。
そうだな。お嬢さんの悪いところだよ。
シオンは、園崎シオンでなければ、とっくに殺されていたことでしょう。死に準ずる罰が、果たしてどのようなものか、私には想像もつきません。殺されなかったにしたって、多分、一生日の光を見ることはできないでしょう。つまりは、鬼隠しということかと。
ミオンちゃん、シオンちゃんは反省してるんだろ？
ええ。
In response, Uncle Kimiyoshi tapped my shoulder and then slapped his own chest. He smiled
大
reliably.
丈夫。シオンちゃんがちゃんと反省してるなら、鬼隠しなんかなるもんか。君吉のおじいちゃんに任せなさい。
本当に大丈夫なんですか？
そりゃあお嬢さんは私に意見されたら怒りはするだろうけどさ。でもおじいちゃんは引かないよ。シオンちゃんがしっかり反省してるんだから、許してあげてほしいってちゃんと頼んでみせるから。
Tears began to fall from my eyes. I knew it. Uncle Kimiyoshi was my ally after all. He said he would forgive Shion. He was my ally. I was so very
本当
happy.
に、去年の北条聡くんみたいに鬼隠しになっちゃったりしないでしょうか？
Wait, is she going to say? Oh no! Oh no! 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 Is she gonna say, "I'm Shion and the hag is dead," and then things are gonna go down? That's definitely gonna happen, isn't it? Uncle Kimiyoshi smiled reliably again and told me.
罰当たりの北条家の坊主ならいざ知れず、園崎家のしおんちゃんならきっと許
Or
して
she
もらえ
goes
るっ
sicko mode
て。
because of that. Yeah. Yeah.
北条家の坊主って、サトシ君のことですか？去年の犠牲者の。
北条の連中は仕方ないさ。村を丸ごと売ろうとした売国と同然の奴らだ。そういう奴らなら鬼隠しだってありえるだろうけど、そりゃあ北条家だからの話だよ。北条家の連中は一族老頭みんな呪われて当然だ。鬼隠しに会うのはそういう連中なんだから。だからしおんちゃんは大丈夫。大丈夫なんだよ。
おじいちゃん。でも、サトシ君は去年、シオンがけじめをつけたから、見逃してもらえることになったんじゃないの？
けじめ？なんの？
ほら、爪を3枚、剥いだじゃないですか。笠井さん、吉郎おじさん、それからサトシ君で、3人分。
No, but one of them is for herself.
3枚。
One of them is for herself.
3枚ってそういう意味だったのかい？
Huh? What?
3枚は、そういう意味じゃなかったんですか？
いや、
Oh, and now
合っ
it...
てるよ。関わった人間が3人だから3枚の爪でけじめとしたんだよ。そう私も聞いてるよ。でも笠井さん、吉郎さん、それからしおんちゃんで3枚だと聞いてたよ。
What? Huh? What? Huh? Oh, what? I endured excruciating pain. First one was my left pinky, then the ring finger, and then the middle finger. People held me down so I couldn't move. I endured. I had to endure 3 nails. I didn't know which nail was for Satoshi-kun. My middle finger was for Satoshi-kun. I had to endure it until the middle finger was done so that Satoshi-kun would be forgiven. That was why I endured. Even Mion said afterwards, everything is forgiven. Huh? 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 Mion, didn't you say Satoshi-kun was forgiven? Did you? That's what I heard. I think that's what I heard. Did I? Huh? Oh? Huh? Felt the air move. There shouldn't have been a breeze in that room, but I felt it anyway. Cool air stroked the back of my neck. That was when my true self stood right behind me. I nodded. Although there was no wind, my hair billowed. The burning wickedness buried deep inside my eyes became visible.
どうして、北条サトシ君は鬼隠しにあったのでしょう？サトシ君のご両親は、確かに村を売ろうとしました。お社様のたたりがあったのは当然です。でも、サトシ君はその両親の子供であっただけ。そのサトシ君にどんな罪が？
ミオンちゃん？
サトシ君にどんな罪があったのかと尋ねています。あなたはさっき、罰当たりな北条家の坊主なら鬼隠しにあっても当然と言いました。鬼隠しにあっても当然な、どんな罪があったのかと聞いているのです。
Yoshi didn't know what to say. That sudden question he seemed made.
聞かずともわかります。園崎お涼が決めたのです。お社様のたたりが及ぶのは、北条の姓を持つすべての人間と決めたから。
待ってミオンちゃん。別にそういうことが決まってるわけじゃない。
決めたわけではないのですか？
そうだよ。北条家にはお社様のたたりがいずれ下る。そういう話をおぼろげにしたことはあっても、そんなにはっきりとしたことを言及したことは一度もないし。
ではさっきあなたが口にした 北条の坊主ならいざ知るという言葉は何を根拠に出たものなのですか？
ごめんよ、みおんちゃん。あれは、言い過ぎたよ。謝る。
そういうことです。北条家なら何があってもたたり、北条の名を冠していればどうなろうが知ったことではないという、そういう考えが蔓延していることが問題なのです。サトシ君に罪があろうがなかろうが、北条という姓があればそれで汚らわしい。そういう考えが蔓延していることが問題なのです。そしてあなたはその蔓延でいぶされた汚れた思考に汚染された迷信盲信。許せない。お前のような存在が許せない。お前のような奴がサトシ君たち一家を追い詰めてあんなにもすり減らして。サトシ君がかわいそう。本当にかわいそう。彼が何をしたの？何もしてない。何もやってない。ただ北条であっただけ。それにどんな罪が罰がたたりが呪いがどうして降りかからねばならなかったのか。一体サトシ君に何の罪があったというのか。
Kimiyoshi's upper body bent backwards and fell onto the floor. That was that. My stun gun back in my pocket.
ごめん、シオン。今、なんて言った？
ゆうべ、高野さんと富武さんが死んだんだそうです。高野さんは焼死体で、富武さんは自殺みたいな感じで、今朝知ったんです。お父さんが親類の人からの電話で話してるのを聞いて。
As I thought Keiichi didn't know anything about what happened after the festival last
マ
night.
スコミに報道されないのは当然なんです。過去にそうだったから。
Keiichi insisted that unless we heard about it on the news, it couldn't be real. But the investigations into the series of mysterious deaths are done in secret now. Of course, he didn't hear about it on the news.
村長とか、あと園崎家出身の金バッジが警察に思いっきり圧力をかけたんだって聞いてます。
じゃあ、つまり、二人の死は、秘密裏に処理されてしまったということか。
そういうことです。もちろん、警察は捜査をしてますよ。でも、秘匿捜査ということなので、捜査活動にはかなりの制限が加えられているそうです。これは、事実上の捜査妨害と言えるでしょうね。
信じられない。人が死んだのに、それが公にされず、ひそやかに処理されるなんて。
もっと噛み砕いて言うと、綿流しの夜に誰が死んでも、公にはならないということです。
No matter who dies on the...
そんなバカな話があってたまるか。
ケイちゃん、私以前に、お社様のたたりは、村人が起こしてるかもしれないって言いましたよね。つまりそういうことなんです。このひなみ沢では、毎年綿流しの夜に、お社様のたたりということにして誰かを殺してもいい土壌が、いつの間にか作り上げられているんです。
Yes, that's the truth about the series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa, also known as Oyashiro-sama's curse. On the day of the Watsunagashi, 2 people will be killed. The perpetrators are using the curse of Oyashiro-sama as an excuse to kill one victim and make another disappear. That's why the curse of Oyashiro-sama takes place. That's what happens in Hinamizawa, and that's what happens with the curse. When Kimiyoshi said is all true, infecting everyone with the idea that the enemy from the dam conflict deserved to die was the root of all this. That was a system of vague commands using the Sonozaki family created by its head, Oryo. One thing that must be mentioned about the command system is the person giving the orders and the one executing them didn't need to interact in any way. Though Oryo was the commander, she never gave actual orders. She only had to expect something to happen. Every single one of the family council members around her would want to satisfy the expectation if given the chance. They didn't have to be proactive about satisfying it. They could be passive too. But when the chance arose, anyone who knew Orio's intentions could potentially become the one to execute her orders. Therefore, Orio would never know who actually executed her order, and none of the relatives knew it either. But they all knew things would conclude just as Orio wanted, and they could assume it was one of their own who did it for her. This passive support system was thoroughly effective, and it spread all over the village. Its ties became even tighter after the dam conflict. Anyone could be the one to execute Orio's orders. Therefore, everyone supported each other. If someone did something, then the others would try to satisfy Orio's expectation in different ways. For example, they come up with false evidence or otherwise passively interfere with an investigation. Even if they didn't know exactly who they were protecting, they'd still work together to protect whoever it was. Yes, I'd finally figured out how it all worked. Phrased in a more organized manner, it would go as follows. The system of killing 2 people who are unwanted by the village each year required 3 elements. The first element was a region of solidarity. It was created during the long and unique history of Hinamizawa. The villagers' bonds became even tighter during the dam conflict. That was one of the conditions for the place to have a curse. It was an element that was already in the region that not one could be created. The next element was having the same moral standards. It was a very important element, as the curse wouldn't have happened without it. Also, this element was created by Orio Sonozaki herself. That's why she could claim that the system was established by her own will. Having the same moral standards means that everyone everywhere acknowledges the same enemy. Even when everyone in the village joined together, it would be meaningless if they didn't know exactly who the enemy was. During the dam conflict, Orio Sonozaki made the identity of the enemy very clear to everyone. They couldn't just say that they were going against the dam construction, that the government was their enemy. That wasn't clear enough. The government didn't really pinpoint who the enemy was, but Orio made enemies out of the construction site itself, and therefore its manager. She chose targets that the villagers could see with their own eyes. They were clear and easy to understand. The villagers acknowledged that everyone at the dam construction site was their enemy, and that construction site manager was the enemy commander. Using the same method, she labeled one after another as an enemy of the village, practically cataloging a list of enemies to print into the villagers' minds. Earlier, I had used the term infecting for this phenomenon. It was infected by this idea where the people unconsciously giving the orders to commit murder. When the infection spread across the village, when all of Hinamizawa's residents acknowledged the same enemy, that's when Hinamizawa itself became a murderer. Orio combined those two elements, a solidary region and having the same moral standards, then selected the enemy and spread the notion throughout the village. The law would normally have punished both the one who committed the crime and the one who gave the order. But Orio's system didn't require order at all. Orio just had to become concerned about the enemy she had pre-selected. But that alone wouldn't cause the curse to take place. Orio's concern was likely a safety device, and even when the safety device was off, the curse wouldn't occur unless there was a finger to pull the trigger. The last necessary element was to set a date for the execution. The night of the Watanagashi. The night to venerate Oyashiro-sama, the guardian of Hinamizawa. On that night, the curse of Oyashiro-sama falls upon two enemies of the village, and they disappear. Huh. So that's what Shion was saying when she said the two had already been chosen for that year, when Keiichi went asking about Teppei. In other words, if the same incident took place on any of the other 364 nights of the year, it would be nothing more than a murder case. So, wait, I have to go back up. So that's what happened. This was... So it's just like a group horde mindset of who's designated enemy? But if it happened on the night of the Watanagashi, then it wouldn't transform into the curse of Oyashiro-sama. The idea that villagers are allowed to kill their enemies on the night of Watanagashi had infected them. The villagers were the cells of this huge creature called Hinamizawa, and each cell would be taught who the enemy was. The set date was basically a green light for whoever was the best positioned to kill the enemy. That was the truth of the curse of Oyashiro-sama. Therefore, the one who actually killed Satoshi-kun isn't my enemy. The one who set up this murder system and the one who named Satoshi-kun's family as the enemy is my enemy. To use as a broader definition, Hinamizawa itself and the very system of Oyashiro-sama's curse is my enemy. I already killed the hag, the one who designed the system. Kimiyoshi, the one whose job it is to infect the villagers with the system, was already in my hands. I had to find out who else was involved and by how much, like pulling a weed while being very careful not to break its roots. I announced that Keiichi Maebara was one of the people who snuck into the shrine storage. I was certain that fact already spread throughout the underside of the village. In other words, Keiichi Maebara was an object of the curse of Oyashiro-sama now. Takano-san and Tomitake-san were found dead, having been killed in gruesome ways. That was the curse of Oyashiro-sama. In that case, they could demon away 2 more people as sacrifices to calm the anger of Oyashiro-sama. The set day for the curse was already over. Just like what happened to Satoshi-kun, demoning away was allowed a little extra time. Something would happen to Keiichi Maebara within a few days. I'd wait patiently, careful not to let my enemies simply take Keiichi Maebara, my bait. Keiichi had been yelling on the other end of the phone for some time. He kept yelling that he didn't want to go into the ritual storehouse to begin with. He claimed he was simply invited by Takano-san and me. He shouldn't be in danger because of that, he said. He was feeling a sense of crisis and tension. This was going to work. The livelier the bait, the easier it is to spot. Oh, this is when Keiichi starts freaking out, but Shion didn't care at that point. Shut up. I've heard enough of your pitiful tears. I hung up the phone. There's no point in talking to him when he got like that. Besides, I already achieved my goal, which was to make him realize the danger awaiting him. I took a deep breath, then called the house of the village chief.
はい、君吉です。
園崎です。どうです？村長さんは見つかりましたか？
ああ、ミオンちゃんか。
Yeah, and you were getting angry at him, yep. He still shouldn't have done that. Like, honestly, the reason why she hung up still was because he was freaking out. Like, she wouldn't have hung up if he wasn't, like, just going sicko mode like that or whatever.
片っ端から電話をかけてみたけど、ダメだよ。見つからないんだ。参ったな。どこで油売ってるのかな。
こっちでも心当たりに色々と問い合わせましたけど。バッチャにも相談したんですが、青年団を招集して探し回った方がいいだろうということです。
こんな時間にかい？それに、別に行方不明になったと決まったわけでもないし。
綿流しの直後ですから、少し慎重に扱った方がいいとのことです。それでも見つからないなら、明朝警察に通報しましょう。見つかる見つからないは別にして、痛くない腹を探られない方がいいでしょうから。
お嬢さんがそう言ったのかい？
はい。直接声を聞かないと信用できないなら、電話先に出させますよ。
いえ、わかりました。
At the time, we thought Shion was also a victim who didn't deserve. Oh, definitely. Definitely. But I just don't understand, like, why she has to take such drastic measures. Like, why? Like, I don't understand her thought process at all, really.
青年団を集めて探しましょう。それで見つからなければ、翌朝に警察に通報します。
By the way, this, I don't know if Diana showed this to you, Ruben. This was my tier list for characters. This is, oh hey, did you figure it out? Figure what out? Shion now deserves a tier of her own. The bottom as the worst character in Higurashi. You can't see? Boom. What is it? The spaces are like a gap in between. It's like, yeah, like these two are way better than like, you know, the next person, you know? Like there's a gap in between. It's not like just one after the other.
Shion is in.
Well, that's what I said. I just had to add it. Like, I literally just added it to her. Like, she just made her own category. Like, it was like this just now, and then I did that. She needs to have her own category because, like, she's really been pissing me off this entire chapter, and this entire thing here. Yeah. Like, I mean, I don't think I even need to say anything. The youth group had gathered at the Furude shrine. They were going to try to... She's such like a selfish person. Mother had to go in the absence of the hag. Just to be mean, I stopped by the underground torch room to let the mayor know that I was headed to the Furude shrine to search for him. Incidentally, according to the tab on the keychain, the underground torch room was actually called the underground storehouse for ritual implements. This was the man that yelling that whoever trespasses on a ritual storehouse should be killed. Although it was an underground ritual storehouse, he was there now, atoning for what he had done. It was pretty ironic. Maybe I was the only one who felt that way, though. Link. Kimiyoshi didn't say a word, but he made a noise with the chain.
今ね、村中でおじいちゃんの姿が見えなくなったって大騒ぎしてますよ。おじいちゃんの家から相談が来たので、青年団を招集して捜索を行うことにしました。これから行ってくるところです。
Was this mean or what? Kimiyoshi could only make a noise with the chain. He couldn't even express any emotion other than anguish.
鎖、少し長くしてあげましょうか。私の質問にちゃんと答えてくれるたびに、そうですね。あと3個も長くなれば、だいぶ楽になると思うんですけどね。
Kimiyoshi's hands were tied behind his back with a tight wire. He was wearing a leather collar with a chain, which was strapped tightly around his neck too. This collar's chain was on a pulley attached to the ceiling, with the chain pulling him up towards it. Oh, he's gonna get, like, basically hanged, no? Kimiyoshi had to stand on his tiptoes to be able to breathe. It had been like that for almost an hour already. He was already exhausted. If I left him overnight, he'd probably end up hanging himself.
さっきは知らないと言われましたけど、もう一回尋ねます。北条聡君について知っていることを教えてください。ああ、ごめんなさい。喋りたくても喋れません？じゃあ、私とおしゃべりの間だけ、ちょっと緩めましょう。
I turned the pulley just a little to loosen the chain that was pulling on Kimiyoshi's neck. Kimiyoshi's heels finally touched the ground, relieving the pressure on his muscles.
知らないんだよ、シオンちゃん。本当に知らないんだ。
サトシ君が生きてるのか死んでるのか。
おじいちゃんは本当に何も知らないんだよ。
ま、ひなみ沢のたたりのシステムは、そういう部分で機密性を保持していますからね。おじいちゃんが知らないというのもありえなくはないことです。なら聞き方を変えます。サトシ君がどうなってるのか。君吉家当主の立場でご意見を伺いたいです。サトシ君は、生きてる？死んでる？
Kimiyoshi didn't know what to say. If he said he didn't know, I'd tighten the chain and leave the room. That would be like a death sentence for him. But all I said was that I wanted him to speak as the head of the Kimiyoshi family. I definitely agree, Ruben, right? But she had people that cared for her, you know? And due to her own, like so many, like, for example, you know, like, she broke out, like, I can see breaking out of the school, you know, like, she wanted to do that. Like, okay. If she went to the school and, like, actually tried to have an enjoyable time, she would have been fine. But no, she was just, every single time, just anguishing about, like, how horrible the school is. She chose to break out of it. Even after she broke out of it, they like, okay, whatever. They didn't care. You know, it's, like, I feel, yes, I think some of the things are not her fault, but then she goes and does things and then complains when she faces the repercussions. That's what I think. All I said was that I wanted to speak, okay. I didn't ask him to tell the truth. But he didn't know what to say to avoid souring my mood and to get me to loosen the chains around him. He was obviously trying to figure out how to make me extend the chain.
生きてるんじゃないかって噂を聞いたことがある。
ああ、新幹線で東京にってやつですね。
警察が東京で姿を見たというようなのを聞いた覚えが。
Oh, she told me that Satoshi-kun had been witnessed getting on a bullet train heading to Tokyo at Nagoya Station. Police didn't know if that really happened or what became of Satoshi-kun after that. Therefore, this was simply a random assertion of Kimiyoshi's.
ねえ。君吉家の当主様？呪われた一族。
I think that's definitely true, Ruben.
わざわざ失踪なんていう凝った仕方をしていて、
only cares about her
わざわざ
own
生かして
game.
おくのに
And
どん
her,
な理由があるんです？
like, her love for Satoshi is not, like she cared about her own happiness. She doesn't really care about his happiness. And the fact that she, like, turned on Satoko, she doesn't even try to think about Satoko. I think, like, there's a lot of things with Shion that I would be inclined to believe that as well, Ruben.
ないんじゃないですか？それに、その東京で警察が見たという情報ソースを教えてください。私は大石と一時期連絡を密にしていましたが、そんなのは聞いたことないです。おじいちゃん、私の機嫌を取ろうとしていい加減なことを言ったなら、かえって怒っちゃいますよ。
Hurries to the pulley, controlling the chains around Kimiyoshi, and that act alone sent him panicking as he feared them tightening once more.
ごめんよ。別にシオンちゃんを怒らせようなんてつもりはないんだよ。謝るよ。
私、ご機嫌取りの話なら聞きたくないんで、君吉のおじいちゃんに、サトシ君のことを調べる協力をお願いしてるだけなんです。
わかってる。ちゃんと真面目に考えるから。
I took my hand off the pulley. Seeing that, Kimiyoshi began making loud groaning noises to try and show he was thinking
ズバリ
hard.
生きていると思いますか？死んでいると思いますか？
生きてると考えるのは難しいんじゃないかと思う。
ですよね。生かしておくことで伴う膨大なリスクを負う意味ないで、私だって同感ですし。
I really didn't mean anything too deep by it, but what I said truly scared
警察
Kimiyoshi.
は、おば殺しの犯人がサトシ君で、サトコの誕生日プレゼントを買うために貯めてた貯金で逃亡したと、そう考えてました。この辺、どう思います？
でも、その犯人は確か麻薬中毒の危ないやつだと聞いたよ。
あれ、どう思います？私は、私がこう言うのも変だけど、サトシ君がおば殺しの犯人だって信じてるんですよ。あいつは、例えばばあさんあたりに買収されて仕立て上げられた身代わりじゃないかと思うんですけど。
それはおじいちゃんも思ってたよ。突然ひょっこりと真犯人でしたなんて言われて、
That makes sense.
腑に落ちなかった。
やっぱり身代わり？
多分そうじゃないかと思うよ。
何のためにだと思います？
警察はサトシ君が犯人だと思って
Why is she one of your
捜査を
favorites?
進めてたんだよね。サトシ君を鬼隠しということで失踪させておきたいと思うなら、警察の捜査がいつまでも続くのは面白くなかったんじゃないかな。
What Kimiyoshi just said is very interesting. He's perfectly correct. If the police continued their investigation, it would complicate things for who demoned away Satoshi-kun. Therefore, the hag came up with a decoy in order to bring an end to the
で
investigation.
も、そんな犯人のでっち上げなんて、そうそう簡単にできることじゃないですよ。
お嬢さん以外にはできないよ。そんなことは。
ばあさんが裏の世界で相当の力を持ってるというのは、私も知ってはいますけど、そんなにもあったんですね。
I did not like Shio. Like, just the, same thing I was saying before, but like, from the very beginning, like in chapter 2, I did not like how Shion acted. I just found her very, very frustrating and annoying. Like, she just seemed like a jerk, like, plain and simple. And I don't think Keiichi initially was, but anytime he interacted with Shion, it felt like he became a jerk as well. So that's also part of the reason. I didn't like Keiichi for getting caught up in that. And he couldn't think for himself.
シオンちゃんだっていろいろとダム戦争の頃から噂は聞いてるだろ
But
うし。
because
中には実際に
interact
直
with
接聞い
Shion
た
that
も
much,
の
I don't think I could
も
have
あ
put
るん
her
じゃな
as
い
one
か
of
い
my least favorite characters, right? But seeing how she thinks in this chapter, and just everything that I've seen that's happening, she's without a doubt my least favorite character. I really dislike her. Like, yeah, she could be a, like well-written character or whatever, but I don't have to like her, which I don't. During the damn protests, I actually saw them issuing orders to my relatives. Like, destroy their heavy machinery, or can we set up a checkpoint to blockade their construction vehicles? They set free their comrades from the police by coming up with alibis, destroying or forging evidence. I've seen relatives do those things, as well as the hag calling them in counselors to house the protest. As a child, I was pretty impressed, but when I thought back, it was more than that. She was truly the mastermind who controlled the underside of the world.
シオンちゃんだって建設省の幹部の息子というか建設大臣の孫だな。あれの誘拐事件の話は知ってるだろう。
あれって、やっぱ誘拐だったんですか？孫が鬼隠しになって、高津戸だか矢河内だかの山奥で見つかったって話は知ってたんですけどね。
あれはお嬢さんの指図によるものだよ。ダム工事の中止の約束が取り付けられたんで、孫を釈放したっていうのは、おじいちゃんたち、旧同盟の幹部ならみんな知ってる。
身近にいすぎて私がよく分かってなかっただけで。やっぱりばあさんとか御三家とか、旧同盟って、大したもんだったんですね。 怖い怖い。
Kimiyoshi finally realized the situation he was in, and he was answering my questions. That made me happy, but the more Kimiyoshi told me the truth, the more I realized Satoshi-kun was really dead. And that made me very sad.
サトシ君を鬼隠しにした実行犯は誰だと思います？
わからないよ。それに誰が実際にやったかは問わないのが不分律だったから。
He was right. That's how the system worked, and so that was a bad question.
誰がやったにせよ、大したものですよね。だって、人を殺して死体も出てこないなんて、結構簡単なことじゃないんじゃないですか？
誰が殺したかは別にして、例えば、死体の処理をお嬢さんが手伝ったという可能性は考えられるよ。今いるここの奥に死体を捨てるための井戸があることは知ってるだろ？
ああ、確かに。どこかの山中に埋めるくらいなら、ここの井戸に捨てる方が絶対に安全ですもんね。
Whoever disappears becomes a sacrifice to calm the anger of Oyashiro-sama. That was the rule of this game. Therefore, the bodies must never be discovered. Therefore, the bodies must, never be discovered. That's why the bodies had to be dumped somewhere and nobody could find them. It was very possible that the well was used for that. Then Satoshi-kun is at the bottom of that well. Yeah, I thought you were gonna do this earlier. I'm not gonna lie, Shion. When you were talking with Mion, and you're like, you've never been down here, Mion? And she's like, no. I really thought the first thing you were gonna do is climb down there. But you didn't. They turned on the lights in the cave. Mion noticed me and gave me a worried look. I ignored her and headed to the cell in the back. I was still very impressed by how the well was hidden. It was almost artistic. I shone the flashlight at the bottom of the well. I had no way of knowing how deep the well was. The light of the flashlight wasn't strong enough to reach the bottom. I inhaled and screamed into the well.
Satoshi-kun! Satoshi-kun!
Dude, she's completely lost herself. She's completely lost it. Satoshi-kun's name echoed again and again. It was obviously a very deep well. Thought of climbing down, using the wedges on the wall. With the flashlight hanging from my neck, I couldn't light my footing properly. But there's a ladder there! Original. Oh, this is what the art was? Like, she hasn't lost it before? She did, right? But she still, was there. Right? Like, she still was like, okay, yes, I'm the one committing the murders. I'm, I don't know. It's like, she was very aware of herself. But she's now calling Satoshi-kun's name. Satoshi-kun's name down the well when she knows his dead body is there. Like I don't know what she's trying to do. I cannot comprehend the actions that she's taking. By doing that. And even if there was enough lighting, I didn't even know the wedges were sturdy enough. It would be like committing suicide. Satoshi-kun was at the bottom of this well. That's when I felt it. A warm hand rubbed my head, for sure. Shion. Finally found me. Satoshi-kun. Satoshi-kun. Satoshi-kun! I've been looking for you for so long. I'm sorry I couldn't find you while you were still alive. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's not your fault, Shion. There's nothing you could have done before I was killed. But you did everything you could after I was dead. Satoshi-kun. I want to join you. I'm coming right now. I'm gonna jump, so please... Satoshi-kun smiled bitterly. I was saddened to see him reject me. Shion, I'm happy you found me, but you're alive, Shion. It's so important to be alive. You can't waste it. You aren't here. I don't want to live. I want to be with you, Satoshi-kun. I want to be close to you. I want you to rub my head. I want to spend time with you. I'll be a good girl. I want to be with you. Live. Do I have to? Live and enjoy your life, okay? What's so fun about living alone? Find out. So long as you're alive.
生きる。生きるよ。生きる。
The eerie well now felt warm. I wasn't allowed to go down to the bottom, but edge of this well was the place where you and I could meet. How is there still more?
サトシ君、見つけた。井戸の底なんだね。そうだと そこしか、ないもん。
Mion started to sob.
ミオンは、サトシ君が殺されるところには、居合わせなかったんだよね。うん。もし居合わせたら、サトシ君を許してもらえるよう、ばあさんに意見してくれたかな。絶対にする。せめて命だけはって。嘘だ。え？嘘だー！
On that day, a year ago, I just recalled how cruel Mion was then when she forced me to rip out my nails, acting in her role as a successor. Even if she was there when Satoshi-kun was killed, she wouldn't have stopped being the successor. Satoshi-kun was brought to the torture room when he saw Mion. I'm sure he thought she would save him. Even as he heard the family head read out his death sentence, I'm sure he looked at Mion and believed that she would save him. He believed Mion was acting that way only because she was with her relatives. He believed she would help him, but she didn't do anything. He was strapped to a restraining device, yet she still wouldn't do anything. Mion was cruel. Mion? Isn't it about time to help me? I see! I get it! You're with the rest of the family members, so you can't even show a hint of compassion. That sucks!
なんで助けないの？サトシ君の助けを懇願する眼差しを見て、どうして心を動かされなかったの？あんたはサトシ君が意地悪オーバーのせいで追い詰められていた時から何も救いを差し伸べなかった。あんたは同情する素振りを見せるだけで助けなかった。見殺した。あんたがサトシ君を助けなかったから追い詰められたんだ。私は救おうと頑張ったよ。彼の心の支えになろうと頑張った。あんたらがサトシ君のおば殺しをかばわなくても、私は彼のアリバイのために自らを投げ打って戦った。その結果が爪3枚なんて安いもんでしょ。でもね、それだけの努力じゃサトシ君を救うには全然足りなかった。届かなかった。どうしてか。だって私はシオンだったんだもん。シオンはひなみ沢から遠ざけられていて、何からも戸ざまで何も教えられなくて知れなくて。でもあんたは違う。あんたはミオンだった。あんたはひなみ沢のうちにいて、すべての中心で全てを教えられて全てを知ることができた。私があんただったらきっとサトシ君を救えた。私なら救ってあげられた。あんたがミオンになったからだ。返してミオン。もともとミオンはあんただけのもんじゃない。私のものでもあったはず。それにもともとミオンは私のじゃない。私があんたに貸してあげるようになっただけで、本当は私のだったじゃない。返せ。私のミオンを返せ。お前がミオンの外見をしているだけでも無実が走る。
That's what I was thinking at some point, if this is what I believe it's implying here. They said that they always swapped, right? So is Shion here actually Mion?
お前じゃなく私がミオンだったら、
I kicked the bars, I kicked them again and again. Mion curled up fearfully in the back of the cell, as if she was trying to prevent the bars from crashing down onto her. So it seems like what I was thinking could be true, but I don't know. If that's the case, then that means the Mion, who we've always seen, is really Shion, pretending to be Mion, and the Shion we've always seen is Mion, pretending to be Shion. Which is crazy, if that's the case. I thought of it for a second, but I didn't think it would be, like, that seems very, I thought it would be very stupid for me to say that. But it seems like that's the direction it's maybe leading in, but I don't know. At least, that's what it seems implied from that, like, very last bit. Because it was my name in the first place, is what she said. Right? But that name isn't yours, it's mine too. It was mine to begin with, remember? Unless she's just talking about, like... Can't stand that if you even look like Mion. But then I still don't understand. Why do they address, like, even when they're sitting in the room together, why do they address each other as Mion and Shion? Like they address each other, like, not by their... Unless, when Mion came over to Shion's house, they still swapped then. And they were still swapping. Because nobody saw Mion's, like, thing at the back. Which would be crazy if that's the truth. And if that's the case, we still really have no clue when Mion is and when Shion is. It's just when the game tells us that's who they are. We still don't know if that really is necessarily true when, like, the game will just say Shion when it's not really Shion, and Mion when it's not really Mion as well. After that, I joined the youth group and searched for Kimiyoshi. I went down to the town's council phone directory and got called to see if he had visited. Then had to the group split according to the circular notice divisions and set them to the search to the town. Everybody seemed to be assuming they wouldn't find him. But since I knew they definitely never would, it would just be bothersome to me. Even after midnight, they were all still enthusiastically looking for him. I bore the sleepiness while yawning. In which case, it would make sense why Shion would look to escape the school, because that honestly seemed more like a Mion thing. On our first impressions of Shion, although I said she was a jerk, she did seem like the more prim and proper person than Mion did. But the thing is, Mion doesn't skip school. I don't know. It's very, very strange, the dynamic. Or the sleepiness while yawning. Then I heard somebody whisper. Last year we did the same thing when Satoshi Hojo-kun went missing. The youth group was looking for someone who would never be found, just like last year. I was yawning because I knew this. Last year there must have also been some people who were yawning and grinning on the inside.
去年の捜索って何時に終わりましたっけ？
あ？北条んとこのサトシん時かい？ありゃ何時だったっけ？
午前の0時過ぎくらいには解散したような気がするな。
It was already 2 in the morning. Although they spent this much time searching for Kimiyoshi, they didn't do the same when Satoshi-kun went missing. After all, some people knew they wouldn't find him. They must have been sleepy. They must have said they should leave it to the police. Shit, I want to kill the police, the people who said that. 188. Yeah, so Mion has officially, Mion, Shion, whoever she is, I don't know. It's one of them. Have completely lost it. Yeah. It is, no way around saying that. Other than, whoever they are has lost it. But yeah. I'm gonna be heading out now. I'm very interested to see what comes up in the next things. Because we know if it follows the same, if this is the same timeline, because we know there's some differences. But if this is the same timeline, we know that Rika and Satoko's murder are tomorrow. Or tomorrow in game time. And maybe there's a lot beforehand, but... yeah. I'm also interested to see where the, supernatural stuff comes in, right? Because they were talking about how, people were already dead, and they were still, showing themselves there. Like, Takano-san, it was saying that she died, the day before her body was actually found, but she was there talking normally. And then there was the way of Keiichi dying in chapter 2 of Mion just appearing by the bed even after she supposedly died. So I don't know. There's a lot of weird things happening, so, and I don't know where it's going. But yeah, that'll be it from me then for today. Thank you for everyone who stopped by the stream. I appreciate it, and I'll be back with more Higurashi tomorrow. Goodbye, everyone!